call the meeting to order. This meeting of the Cohasset Board of Selectmen on Tuesday, June 17th at 7 p.m. Meeting in Cohasset Town Hall. Our first order of business is a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As I'm getting my sea legs as chairman, one of the things that I am determined to do is to keep our meetings as efficient and productive as possible. So I am going to request that I'm going to, in the future, put public comment right in the beginning of the meeting, and I would like to request that the public, during this comment period, stick to items that they'd like to see on a future agenda or matters that are important to the entire community, where they're sharing some news or updates, and respectfully would ask the same of the selectmen during the selectmen update. I think when we get far afield on matters that aren't town business, we tend to lose sight of ourselves sometimes in the meeting. So I'm going to try to be very strict about that. And I'm always willing to accept comment to a limit to certain degrees throughout the agenda items on matters that are on the agenda. So I just wanted to put that forward. And having said that, I will open up the floor for any public comment. If you're interested in speaking to a matter not on the agenda, come on up. Okay. So, hearing none, we have a hearing tonight for a change in corporate directorship and a change of manager for the Red Lion Inn. It's not on the agenda till 7:10. So I'm wondering if there's something we can jump to.
Signage?
Yeah, Brian's not here either.
No.
Appointments?
What about
Master
the
appointments.
assistant harbor master?
Yep, so we can do that. Was Laurie planning to be here?
Yes.
She was? So much for
What about
efficient
the-
agendas.
What about
Working
farmer's
backwards.
market?
Is it the farmer's market? Were they planning to be-
They were not planning.
They weren't
All right,
planning
so
on
we
being
can jump to
here.
that. So.
Okay. So, Madam Chair? Yep.
I do some volunteer work for the farmer's market, and while I receive no compensation for it, I want everything to be open and above board, and to avoid any consternation on the parts of any other board members. I'm going to recuse myself from this.
Okay. So the matter is is to discuss and approve or disapprove the dates for the Cohasset Farmers Market for the year 2014. They're requesting to begin the farmers market on June 19th, which is this Thursday, running on each subsequent Thursday through October the 16th. Just some updates on this. They have not yet completed the event application form. Tracy and Jen have been working with them on it. So I think what I'd like to recommend is that we discuss it and move to conditionally approve the dates, let them go forward with it, and then have them back in just for a formal approval of the season once we have the event application completed. They have been in touch with all the all the department heads, the police chief, fire chief, DPW, and Tracy and Jen over the past probably couple of weeks. Tracy, do you have anything to add to that? There is one other thing in our packet that we did receive a request, and it was brought to my attention after we put the agenda together to hold a community yoga program on the, it is going to be one of the activities that's part of the farmer's market. So it was Kelly Lynch from Balance Studio requested two things. One is to do a community yoga, right to the word music, community yoga program, and the other was to do a separate yoga program, an hour-and-a-half workshop on the Common. We're going to put that off and discuss that on a future agenda. But in the meantime, just a yoga session is gonna be part of the offerings of the farmer's market. So that's, we've cleared that with both the farmer's market people and Balance Studio. So if anybody has any questions about that.
The only question I have is whether or not the town needs anything from the sponsors of the farmer's market with respect to insurances, waivers, things like that.
So two things on that. The farmer's market provides the town an additionally in service certificate as part of their running the farmer's market, and it covers all of the activities. But I think Tracy and Jen made it clear to Kelly Lynch and Balance Studio that she too should provide us with an additionally insured insurance, just because it's a insurance policy, just
Right.
because it's a physical activity that.
Well, and she's collecting money for it too, isn't she?
She's collecting money, I think she's,
Under
it's
the,
a
under the
donation.
under the farmer's market, it's a non-profit, it's a donation.
I mean, I know they're not, the farmer's market is fine, but I'm just wondering what,
Well, that's, the second item is one that's, I think that Diane was pointing
Yeah.
out that would be tabled for a later discussion.
yeah, but I'm at this Balance Studio.
Yeah, my thinking on that is that everybody at the farmer's market's collecting money, for the most part. I mean, they pay some people to come, but there's people selling cookies, and there's people selling face painting or other activities, and that, as far as the farmer's market is concerned, this is just another one of the offerings that they would be,
Right. And from what I read on that, that's all donated to charity, so that's a
Yes.
nonprofit activity. So as Steve pointed
Well,
out, I think, I'm not concerned about that.
yeah.
Also, too, I did take a quick look online. Other towns do allow yoga on their commons, too.
Oh,
if
no,
that's-
we have yoga in the morning.
Yeah,
We
right,
have
yeah.
yoga
Tai
in the
Chi,
morning.
yeah.
Tai Chi rather, yeah.
And this apparently would be over near the flagpole or something. so-
No, this is literally gonna be a section of the farmer's market.
Oh, it's a
Yeah,
change.
Yeah.
it's
from what
not
I'm
gonna be
now-
on the top,
No, there's
no,
Right.
that's what because a lot of people
Oh, I know the second
are
thing is.
concerned about having too much
Right.
around
The
the
first
pole.
one
Right.
is an element of the farmer's market.
I mean,
which
people
is
like the common.
Oh, I just wanna make sure
collection.
this, Martha, hang on one
And
sec.
that's what we're
Yeah,
discussing.
sure.
Yeah, if we can address so people know what we're talking about and not have multiple conversations
Yeah, no,
going.
that's okay.
So there's one thing in front of us, which the most important is to discuss the dates for the farmer's market. Then to discuss whether we're interested in having it conditionally approved, subject to their completion of the full event policy that we're asking anybody that's doing anything in town to do. And then the third is just another matter that we had gotten in our selectmen correspondence, which was the request from the Balance Studio. Since we got that letter, they have, I guess, become part of the farmer's market. And just because it was presented to us a little differently, I wanted to make sure everybody was fine with that. We don't usually discuss the individual farmer's market participants.
So they'll have it on that side of the.
Yeah, we'll all be over here.
All be over here.
Right, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's the other thing, that absent the event policy from the farmer's market
Yeah.
folks, we don't actually know exactly where they're setting it up. I presume it's the same places. And Tracy, do you know whether they've done a road closing for William B. Long
Yes.
Road? So it's gonna be in this area.
How are we going, we don't have meetings for a while. How are we going to permanently vote for it?
So we have a meeting in 2 weeks on July 1st.
Okay.
And I was planning
I was
to
thinking of the 26th.
hopefully get there. I believe their event application is very close to being
Yeah.
completed. It's just a matter of us putting it on an agenda.
What's not complete in the application?
They just haven't, they've talked to people, but they haven't, it's like a 6-page document. We have to get sign-offs from each of the departments, and they just haven't actually physically done that yet, to my knowledge. Is that right?
Yeah. I'm just concerned with the process, not, because we have the same process for everybody.
That's right.
That's right, and that's
Yeah.
making sure that it's done. I'm a process person.
I couldn't agree more.
I agree with that too, that's why I'm concerned, because we have a lot of events and there is liabilities, there is procedures, we just had a whole thing with other ones, and, they've had quite a lot of time to get an application in
That's
6
true.
pages,
Frankly, I think we dropped the ball, just administratively, we dropped the ball because it's year after year, we've just done it, and they've kind of got it in, and they said, we'll send you an email, they sent an email, and we just didn't force that event application on them, and we should have. I don't want to, I'm not inclined to punish them.
I'm not looking to punish anybody, but wouldn't it be up to them to come to us and say we want to do an event? And why would we even be involved with, we're not chasing after people to do applications.
Because this event policy is relatively new, and a lot of people sort of were grandfathered and eased into the process. We should have given it to them when they first reached out to us. We did not do that.
The event policy itself started about 2 years ago with the application, and there's been a fair amount of adjustment to get used to it. Yes, you would think that someone who's been here this long a period of time would have that ready to go, but frankly, I think a lot of people look at it from the perspective that, well, you know who we are, as opposed to asking about whether or not things have changed. So,
Is there any liability to the town that we could have for difficulties for not having a process on an application if they?
No, I mean, we have their insurance, they're gonna have their insurance certificate to us. Everything's gonna be done, it's just
The
that they
insurance
haven't
will
filled out.
Will the insurance maybe be for Thursday?
Absolutely.
Thursday?
I think she got it this afternoon.
Yeah,
The insurance for the
It-
farmer's market.
to answer your question with respect to liability, the
Can you
reason,
just address everybody, I'm sorry, just so everybody can hear you.
well, to answer your question, Jesus, what do we put these microphones?
Well, I know, people have trouble hearing at home, I'm
I
sorry.
have trouble hearing here. To answer your question with respect to liability, the purpose for the application is exactly that, to make sure that that public safety and DPW are aware of what's going on, have looked at the plans, recognized that whether or not there'd be response flaws, if so, were they remediated in advance, checked the box with respect to an insurance policy and the like, and that is why the event policy in and of itself is so important. So,
Right, it sounds important to me.
And it's also something that we're gonna address on a future agenda, probably later this summer, just to clarify things like what is it that we want the common use for and if, and so that's a whole nother conversation, but, in the meantime, this is something that's happened every year. We've not, just because organizations have, you know, it's been kind of loosey-goosey in the past, and we've established a system and different people pick up the ball. I think at this point it's incumbent upon us to make sure that they fill these out in time before we approve it, but in this case we didn't. And I would like to, I'd recommend somebody make a motion to conditionally approve these, subject to the completion of, obviously we need their insurance certificate in hand before Thursday.
All their insurance, all the required insurance
Yep.
policies should be in
Mhm.
hand before they open up on
Everything.
Thursday.
Yeah.
And there should be, if we do approve it, there should be a set date in which this application is in, not, that shouldn't be open-ended. For example, they should have it, you know, by July 1 or whatever it is.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely.
So we have a set date, but all the insurances should be in.
do we have, do you know where they are in the process of finalizing the application itself?
From what I understood, they spoke with the fire chief. I don't know if they spoke with police or not.
We would,
And DPW.
we were called today, actually, I went back and forth with the email with I believe it's Mr. Hughley,
Yeah.
Mhm.
someone new this year.
Yeah,
And we haven't had a chance to meet with them, we haven't seen an application.
okay. Do you
But-
wanna come up, Bill?
Sure.
Sorry.
That said, Sergeant Trainer's gonna hook up with them, and they're gonna figure out the traffic for this Thursday.
Okay.
They are attempting to do it, but there is no application at this point. I didn't think, it sounds to me like they didn't really consider themselves an event, if that makes sense, because it's ongoing. But they are working with us.
Yeah, and that, I think that's, you know, we gotta clarify everything.
It was the
And
same
we're in
thing with the
process
Memorial
of-
Day parade.
Rome wasn't built in a day. Right, there's
Yep.
so many kind of historical activities in town that they don't feel, for whatever reason, that they meet the threshold. But that's incumbent upon us, I think, this office, to make sure that we get that information out to them.
And one of the things we've done in the past, the police department has done, is we've taken Tommy Wigmore away from his duties to hang no parking signs every Thursday, then take them down on Friday. So I've asked that Mr. Hughley detail one of his own people from the farmer's market to do that and to provide the signs, so it's not a burden on the police department.
That's a good idea.
So if somebody's willing to make a motion, I think what we'd like to say is that they would have their application completed before next Friday, which is what, the 27th?
So you
Or
submit
next
it to-
Thursday.
Submit it to us and complete it
Submitted to this office, that it's in our packets
for our next meeting.
the next meeting, which is July 1st, at which I would recommend that they come here so they can answer any specific questions about the activities of the farmer's market.
And also that they have all their insurances by this Thursday. That needs to be in this office by this Thursday,
Yep.
so there's no liability to the town.
Yeah, yeah, that's right, this Thursday, by the
This Thursday.
19th.
Otherwise, they shouldn't
Yeah,
have the
yeah,
fair.
Yeah,
By Wednesday. Let's make it Wednesday.
Wednesday. That's tomorrow.
Yeah. I talked to Jen about this earlier, and they have their insurance certificate. I believe it was emailed over here this afternoon, and they have begun working on the form, and they weren't aware that they needed to complete the form.
That's what it boiled down to today, it seemed like, through the emails.
Chief, has there been in the past any particular items with regard to the conduct of the farmer's market that the police department would like to see improved?
It's really not a problem, except for when people start to double and triple park on North Main Street. It hinders, the police and fire department getting through with the apparatus.
Right.
So what we do is we'll restrict parking by temporary order around the perimeter of the common. So there's parking on one side of the road, and that's enough for us to get through. But it's done with signage, and again, we're going to push those duties onto the event to do that. It shouldn't come out of my budget to buy signs
No.
for no parking.
In fact, why don't we make it a condition of approval that they do the signage that the chief is asking for?
That would be, that'd go along as long as that's in the application.
Sure, and I'll make that a condition.
Could you make that a condition?
Sure,
So that when we
when I sign
formally do
off,
it.
that'll be one of the conditions.
Will you make
All right.
that for some other in the future?
We do that, we've done that for the Arts Festival this week.
Mhm.
They purchased all the signs this year. We, as a department, years ago, we were purchasing all these signs, and it was getting expensive. So now, when we get the event
Pass that
application,
cost on.
we give them the name of the vendor, we get the signs, and they take care of it, and it
Great.
takes us totally out of the picture.
That's great.
All right, so I move that the board vote to conditionally approve the application by the Cohasset Farmers Market to conduct a farmers market every Thursday from June 19 to October?
October 16th.
October 16. The conditional approval will be subject to submission of an insurance certificate, a valid insurance certificate to this office no later than Wednesday, June 18. The completed application submitted to this office no later than Wednesday, June 25. And further, that prior to the start of the farmer's market on Thursday, June 19th, that we have verbal agreement from public safety and DPW officers as to the application. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Follow that.
Second.
And that they attend on July 1st, when we'll address the formal approval. Yep. Okay, is there a second?
I second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Thank you.
passes 4-0. One abstention.
Karen,
That's all.
Oh, shit.
Okay, let's move along now.
Make him understand.
That took longer than I expected,
Wasn't sure.
right? Okay. So, tonight we're gonna be, talking with, the Red Lion Inn folks about a change of corporate directorship first, and then, go on to the change of manager. There was a public hearing notice, which I will read, and then I'd like a motion to open the hearing. The Cohasset Board of Selectmen, acting as the liquor license authority, will hold a public hearing on, what is it now, today, Tuesday, June 17th. It was originally scheduled for May 6th, and then rescheduled for June something, at 7:10 p.m. in the Selectman's Office, Town Hall, 41 Highland Ave, to consider the application of Cohasset Sorrow, Inc., DBA Red Lion Inn, to change the manager of the premises within which liquor, wines, and malt beverages are sold and consumed from Gerald M. Galligan to Henry Luchin, sorry if I mispronounced that. The public is invited to offer input on the proposed in writing in advance of the public hearing, or in person at the hearing. So I'd like a motion to open the hearing.
I'll move.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the hearing is open. We are gonna talk first about the change of corporate directorship. And, Mr. Humphrey, you wanna come up? And, Chief Quigley, if you could, yeah, I think you're gonna stay
Okay.
and speak first. But
Sounds
if you
good.
could just, for the record, just give us your name and rank.
Sure, for the record, I'm the, William Quigley, the acting chief of police. And last week, I believe it was on Friday, I was directed by the town manager's office to verify a change in corporate offices that was filed with the board by Attorney Humphreys for Sorrow Inc., which is doing business as the Red Lion Inn. I was able to, I went through the paperwork, I was able to have Sergeant Trainer verify the contents of, verify that the individuals' names contained in that packet were legitimate, and they are familiar with the duties and responsibilities of being corporate officers, and that was verified last Friday.
Mr. Humphrey, do you wanna speak on, and if you could just introduce yourself?
For the record, my name is Charles Humphreys. I'm an attorney for Cohasset Sorrow Inc., doing business at Red Lion Inn. And I just simply want to say that it's fairly straightforward. We have in fact filed with the Secretary of State duly recorded offices. I've also given you the corporate votes for that, and I will just say to Mr. McCarthy, you made a little comment the other day, say, are we under, what section are we under? We were talking about the age of the corporation.
950,
It's
68.
more than 20 years old, but, you know, you still can use the post-84 statute. So I changed to that so we can all be happy with a more modern language. So I appreciate the catch.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay? And the only difference between, I will say, the consent vote of the Board of Directors and the consent vote of the stockholders is each of those are referred to a section of 156D, okay, which is the Massachusetts corporate statute. So that's very straightforward. I will tell you as part of that, just so that you understand, we've also filed with you for filing with the Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission personal information on which we're required to for the manager of the license, the president of the corporation, and all directors. And that information has been presented and filed, and there's also what I would call a court commission slip.
We don't conduct Cory, we're not allowed to.
No, but they can.
They can, the ABCC can.
Yeah, yeah. So that'll be part of their function
Correct.
to run. I would not anticipate any difficulty with that. I've discussed that with the people who signed the Cory reports.
Can I ask just kind of assuming that this, we approve everything tonight, what's the next step? It goes to the ABCC?
You have to transmit all of this to the ABCC.
It's like within 7 days?
I talked with Frank Solomon, who was the executive director of the ABCC, and I wanted to make sure we had no issues, and he says, no, this is what you've got to do. There is a Form 34, which is the town's responsibility, the transmittal form of these things here.
Yeah.
Form 43. excuse
Form
me.
43, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so this package goes to them entirely. If you vote to approve both these changes, it goes to the ABC, they make their review, and they will advise you of their decision in that regard.
Okay. Okay, does the board have any questions on the corporate directorship changes?
Just the nature, Charlie, why is Mr. Ordelheide removing himself as director?
Well, first of all, he can be a director. But I didn't want to create any, you can have a non-resident director, provided he doesn't have a majority vote in the board of directors. Okay, 50-50 is not majority. I've gone through that with the ABCC. So he could sit, but the fact of the matter is,
The board's controlled by the stockholders, yes.
ultimately, yes, yeah, but
So
that's
100%,
okay, but.
100% stockholder.
But,
pretty
you
much
know,
sways
you've
the
gotta go
board.
through the process, you can't just do that. And the real point here is, going to a great deal of effort to get an experienced, competent, reputable general manager who, to be honest with you, has to be able to run the business as he sees fit, and that's why he's been appointed president and general manager. Of course, additionally, there is the function of license manager. But it's all part of a reorganization of the restructuring of the company.
Anybody have any other questions?
On corporate structure.
Yes. Corporate structure, any questions?
No.
Okay. So I will entertain a motion to approve the new corporate structure, which has, Heinrich Luchens as president, John T. Murray as treasurer, John T. Murray as secretary, and Heinrich Luchens as a director, Bert Ortolani stockholder.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and that passes 5-0. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to the, I'm gonna try to find the right paperwork here, to the license manager. Chief Quigley.
I've met with Mr. Heinrich Luchens a couple times now, and very impressed with his background and his resume. In the past few weeks, I've conducted a background investigation on his reputation in the industry. I've talked to the Harvard University Police, one of the commanders over there, and the person that I spoke to spoke very highly of Mr. Luchens, and said he enjoyed a great reputation in the industry and had a very low tolerance for nonsense. And that's the impression that I get from meeting with him. The last 2 times I've met, he's really taken affirmative steps to straighten things out over there, and there just appears to be no issue. And he's only held 2 of these jobs in his entire career in the last 35 years, I believe. I'll be able to tell you, but there's no issues at all in his background. Runs a very, very tight ship.
I would like to hear from Mr. Humphries, but then I would love it if Mr. Luchens would come up and
Sure.
join you, and
Yeah.
so we can ask, the board can ask questions if they have any of him.
I appreciate it, thank you very much.
Thanks. Chief.
Heinrich
Good
Luchens.
Charlie, do you want to say anything? or-
Well, I think there is a background check. I think you do understand that for over 20 years, he was the general manager of the Harvard Faculty Club, and he turned it from a rather, I have to say, somnulent organization into a dynamic, valuable asset to the Harvard community in terms of quality and utilization by faculty members. And we hope and expect that he will bring those skills. I've been talking with him about many issues. His approach is fresh. It's clear. It doesn't leave a lot of ambiguity for employees who might think, candidly, that the inmates run the asylum. Just, so it's the kind of personality it needs. It's very clear. It's very understandable. And his approach, to be honest with you, not only in the building, but in the community and interesting enough, in the neighborhood, is very proactive. Okay?
Great.
So, you're free to ask him any questions or.
Yep. Members have questions? I have some. Anybody?
Go ahead.
Want to start?
No, that's you.
So just one specific question I have is just what hours are you on the premises typically?
Lots of hours.
Yeah.
I've been on the premises 7 days a week for the first 3 weeks,
Okay.
and I'm usually here at 8, leave at 9.
That is
Yes,
8 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Yeah, yesterday I left, yesterday I took off, first time. Yeah. It's not that we have so much to do, but, yeah, we want to make some real changes. And we'll do it slowly, so it sticks.
I think my concern is just whether there will be some regular hours eventually when things calm down.
Absolutely.
You've
Absolutely.
established yourself there.
Yes, we'll have full coverage when I've established myself. Either myself or my assistant will be there.
Diane?
Yes.
Have you hired an assistant, or is there a person there that
I
you
hired an
already-
assistant who currently lives in Salem, New Hampshire.
Mhm.
He's worked for me for 20 years at the Harvard University Family Club. Who is currently a manager at another location where he spent 3.5 years, and I brought him there. He had some problems there that I straightened out. I brought him in to be the manager there. He's selling his house in New Hampshire right now. He's going to rent a house in Hull. He's going to start on July 1st. He's
So
going to be
that
my
means-
assistant.
So that means we'll relieve you of some of your 7-day-a-week hours.
Exactly, we'll share it. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Karen, any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Lucian's, there's a vibrant business that the Red Lion has enjoyed over time. There's one request that I have, not a question, and it's not something that you have direct responsibility for currently, but I would request that it comes forward. There's a set of conditions on the license that's long been held by the Red Lion. And I respectfully request that any lobbying that be done by the license holder rather than the customers of the Red Lion. Frankly, the brides-to-be don't need to be calling town hall asking us to change our conditions of license. And frankly, I've had enough of that. The license conditions exist, and I respectfully request that the business simply put those forward to their prospective customers accurately.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate that. And as I said, I thoroughly understand that this is something that you've inherited, as it were. But as a practice, it folds into the body of behavior that we look at.
What I've done, I looked through our license requirements, I noticed the limitations, and I posted them. And they're everywhere where it's supposed to be, so everybody knows what it is. As a matter of fact, we did have somebody here a couple of nights ago, and they thought we could go outside. We did not permit it. So we gave them a slight refund of their payments because they had the wrong impression. They were told they could do something they can't do. So we stopped it.
I very much appreciate that is the conduct of the business, and based upon what we've heard currently from both Mr. Humphreys and Chief Quigley, I think the business is fortunate to have the ability to hire someone of your caliber.
Thank you.
I would just say, we don't encourage those calls. But I have taken some of the calls from the fathers of the bride. And they are
None of
under
them
a
are fun.
mandate that you and I at least should understand and realize it's very difficult to control.
I'm bringing back what we've heard directly.
Yeah.
So,
Kevin?
No, I'm all set.
the only other question that I have with respect to the license is, while I see the certificate of good standing here, Charlie, is the business in good standing with the town as well?
You have this, don't you? Did you get this?
Did they turn that into you?
Yeah, as of, again, I guess Chief Quigley can verify this, I was told that as of today, they're current on their details.
Okay.
That's correct.
Payment of their details.
This afternoon, it was, Heinrich was in today, and everything was cleared up. There's nothing due that's more than 30 days old.
And again, these are the most recent water bills. Now, they were just due the other day. These are still open, but we're still within the grace period.
Okay.
With penalty, but it's still within the grace period. Same thing with taxes, but I assume that they'll be paid with their appropriate amount of interest. Otherwise, they'll become tax liens.
So we're current then, because there was an $11,000 issue.
Yeah, that's all,
been
that
cured and taken
that
care
has
of.
not been, yes, that has fortunately been taken care of.
Well, in the police department with cooperative, there was, what caused that was just confusion and some disagreement, what was paid and what wasn't paid. So very candidly, the police department sat down and went through it with Heinrich, one of your assistants, and did it, I have to say, bill by bill, and that's what resulted.
Got it resulted.
And clearly there had been some turnover over the last couple of months.
Yes.
So, well, I welcome you to Cohasset, and,
Thank you.
and as Steve said that, we're happy to have somebody of your caliber over there, and
Thank you very
I
much.
hope the staff is, recognizes what they have in a professional manager. I guess the only other question I had is the Red Lion Inn is so multifaceted, and in your experience, is the Harvard Club, do they have rooms for rent? Are there
Oh, yeah.
multiple licenses
Yes,
and
yes.
entertainments and everything? So,
Yes, we had bedrooms like this inn has, and we had 12 rooms to rent out. We did quite a number of events. Harvard used it, so we had breakfast, lunch, and dinner Monday through Friday. And on weekends we did what we do here. We had weddings and
Yeah.
we could do it.
is the one on Commonwealth Ave?
No, the one on Commonwealth Ave is the Harvard Club. I was not at the Harvard Club.
Okay.
I was at the Harvard University Faculty Club.
I see. Okay.
That's right next to the
Okay.
Ford Art Museum, right?
Yep.
on Quincy Street.
Yep.
It
Okay.
belongs to Harvard University. The others are private organizations.
Thank you very much. Do
Thank
you have
you.
any questions for us?
No, I don't think.
Okay. So I would like to have a motion to approve, I'm sorry about my German, Heinrich Luchens as the licensed manager for Cohasset Sorrow DBA The Red Lion Inn.
Is it a transfer of the license, or is it a?
Thank you, Steve.
Is it an
Transfer.
approval of the license?
It is
It's approval of a new manager.
Of a new
Approval
manager.
Not a transfer.
Okay.
approval of the new manager.
The license is held by Red Lion Inn.
Cohasset Sorrow.
Cohasset.
I'm sorry,
Sorrow.
yeah, the corporation.
Yes.
Yep. I'll
Yeah,
move it.
Yeah, I move that the board vote to approve the appointment of Heinrich Luchens. Is it Luchens or Lucians?
It's legit, but.
I can hatch it
I'll
up
take
either
whatever
way.
you decide. It's all right with me.
To approve Heinrich Luchens as the manager of the Red, is the manager of the Red
It's
Lion? or
Cohasset Sorrow,
Sorrow, Inc.
Inc. doing business as the Red Lion Inn.
They approve him as the manager of Cohasset Sorrow, Inc., doing business as the Red Lion.
Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
very much.
you.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Just give me 2 seconds to clear my paper. I'm not as efficient as Mr. McCarthy. I know. I'm
Get my
trying
bad
to
view.
get there, I'll tell you. Very admirable. So the next thing on our agenda is new signage for traffic control on Redgate Lane and Fair Oaks Lane, and I believe,
Madam Chair, I need to recuse myself. I live on Fair Oaks Lane.
okay,
So just
I believe Brian Joyce
You
is
speed on
here.
Fair Oaks Lane.
yeah, right.
Right here. And I'm gonna ask when you set up, Brian, just to introduce yourselves for the
Sure.
record.
Should I grab the,
It's right there, it's the,
If you're gonna give it up, I'll take it up.
turn on the,
So everybody has the
you
photos
you
in
just
the
have to
packet.
just,
It's power on, right here.
you just have to, you just have to push the F4, I guess it is, that doesn't matter. Just shift it down.
You know what, well, Brian signs it, we have to sign these, Form 43s. We do those and then pass them down.
Start it down at Martha's end because we got Kevin.
Thank you.
Finish up.
It's good to have someone,
Yeah. This is our graphic artist as well, Lester. Sorry, you guys.
Okay, if you don't mind just introducing yourselves and then you can jump into it.
Brian Joyce, Director of Project Management and Planning, Town of Cohasset.
Jeff Trainer, Sergeant with the Police Department.
Thank you.
So we're here tonight to talk about signage improvements on Redgate Lane and Fair Oaks Lane. Redgate Lane has been a problem area with speeding for several years. It was brought to my attention when I started working here by a couple of the residents who are here in the room. Mr. O'Connell, Mr. Evans are here tonight. The issue is, well, there's several issues, but Redgate Lane, I've learned since the advent of GPS, it's people going on Jerusalem Road, it actually navigates you down Redgate Lane.
Really?
And the road connects North Main Street and Jerusalem Road, and it's defined by a long straightaway with a downhill, and then a very sharp curve, and a little bit of an S curve as it comes into Jerusalem Road. There's no signage existing except for I think it's slow children.
Do you know where that is, where that sign is?
So that is looking at the photo. It's where the left-hand side where it says thickly settled 20 mph, the proposed sign.
Okay.
So it's in that area. Speeding has been an issue out there, especially on that straightaway and before you get to the S curve. And the line of sight around the very sharp curve really only allows for 15 miles per hour. So what we're proposing is signage at each end of the road as you enter from Jerusalem Road and North Main Street that says thickly settled and 20 mph. At the sharp corner, we're proposing a left arrow and a right arrow based on your approach with 15 miles per hour. We conducted a speed study out there, and the way speed limits are set, if there's no signage, it's based on, it's called prima facie. And out here, it's 30 miles an hour. And if you want to post a state-approved sign, which is white with black lettering, you need to do a speed study. Unfortunately, the way the speed study works is they take the 85th percentile of the speed, and that becomes the recommendation for the speed limit. So if everyone's speeding out there, it's, you know, they take the speed at which 85% of the people are traveling or less, and that's the way it's dictated. So we're not going with the white signs and the black light. I know.
We're not going there.
Yeah, these are yellow signs with the black writing. So that's Redgate Lane, and
Yeah,
if there are any questions on Redgate,
Yeah. Brian, just out of curiosity, what was the 85 percentile speed?
it was just over prima facie at 31. So, but we would have to increase the speed limit from prima facie
Wow.
based on that.
Please keep it under 50.
So in
If-
other words,
if you do-
85% of the people travel at about 30 miles per hour on Redgate Lane.
Over 30.
Over 30.
Right. So they had speed strips out there for 2 weeks
Wow.
on each approach, and that's how it was determined.
And I don't know if this is a good question to ask in public, but these signs are more warnings. Are they enforceable?
Well, there's still enforcement out there, but I don't know if we want to get into the details of loopholes around the enforcement.
Okay, no, I don't.
If the police force were to pull over a motorist for doing 30 miles an hour after these signs are posted on Redgate Lane, could you ticket them?
I think we'd have a hard time not holding up in court.
Okay.
Did you say over 30?
Yeah. We're proposing to post signs at 15 miles per hour or 20 miles per hour. And the question is, can you enforce that? And so a method of enforcement would be to ticket a motorist exceeding that speed. And then for that matter, exceeding prima facie speed.
exceeding prima facie is always, I think, enforceable.
Let's move on.
Okay.
Unless somebody, Martha, you have a question already?
Yes, you go from 20 to 15. Isn't it difficult for people to go down to that?
Get a break?
The only reason I say that is that when you go on 228 in Hingham and you go down to 20 and 25, the curve just before 3A, I see people going,
And
or
it-
not.
Yeah, that's,
going
and that's the
down.
big reason, people build up a lot of speed on this straightaway. And,
Yeah.
And if they're going prima facie, it's really,
That's too fast.
it's too fast. Once you hit the corner, you could potentially, you're in the other lane,
Yeah.
and you could hit another car that's coming the opposite direction, so.
If they're going and it's a pretty sharp turn, so they're
Right.
gonna hit their brake no matter what
Yeah.
speed they're going.
Yeah, and it's a shortcut, so they don't.
Right, and I think Mr. O'Connell brought it to my attention that it was a cut-through
Mhm.
GPS
Oh, yeah.
directions, which is, it just exacerbates
Crazy.
people who don't know the area, and then
Goes right through.
it's a straightaway here where you can pick up a lot
Yeah.
of speed, so hopefully the signage will.
Yeah.
Is there any way to challenge that technology? Do people appeal GPS directions? It just seems crazy. I don't know.
We routinely find people at the Dome Street gate to Wampatuck in campers.
I've heard that.
For Wampatuck, yeah.
Anyway, okay. Carry on.
So, Fair Oaks Lane, proposed signage is just at the head of Fair Oaks Lane off of Sawyer Street. Again, there's no speed limit signage out there. And based on the line of sight with the vertical curve and the horizontal curve, we're recommending 20 miles per hour, a thickly settled 20 miles per hour sign at the head of the street. And this is a cul-de-sac road with one entrance off of Sawyer. Sorry, go ahead.
The only question I have on this is the level of signage. Full disclosure, I lived on Fair Oaks Lane for a number of years. And the characteristic of that particular neighborhood is typically that it's a transitional neighborhood where younger families will move in, stay for quite some time, and then move on. There's often a turnover, and young children are a characteristic, and you hit it right in the head. It's a cul-de-sac. However, as you head down that street, that's also a big hill, as you will know. Is one sign at the top sufficient?
Well, the speed strip we put out there was at the top, and looking down the street, the signs we're putting out there are within the right of way, and we're trying to situate them in a place where you see it when you come on the street, and and it's also kind of in between property lines and shielded from your personal view of your house. So I think the only other spot we could put it would be down in the cul-de-sac neighborhood, and
Well, that's actually what I was thinking is, down in here is where any vehicle, and I say that having driven that street for a number of years, gathers its maximum speed, and interestingly enough, it's exactly at that bottom of the hill where kids tend to congregate on their bikes and the like. And that's why I'm asking.
we could entertain putting another sign up there.
It's not a small thing, and many of those houses over the course of a year, will have work crews coming in and out, whether to do some construction work or yard work and the like. And it's not just obviously the families who live there for whom the traffic signs are employed, but also visitors to the neighborhood. They may not recognize just what the population is. And that's, if we're doing this out of a matter and concern for public safety, much the same way you have both ends of Redgate Lane signed, I would argue that you might want to take a look at this as well.
Can I propose, if we're going to take a vote on the signage, recommending this sign and an additional sign location to be determined with another submittal to the selectmen?
I'm asking for it. I'm not commanding it. But
No, I mean these are locally approved signs, so.
I wouldn't hold up the project based upon this commentary, but it's one that I respectfully request you examine.
Have the neighbors, are they aware of the signs going up? And I appreciate the right of way and that they're not in somebody's, when they look out their front window, but.
I'll contact the direct butters where
Yeah.
we are. So we're gonna be in the right of way in between property lines and next to bushes and shrubberies.
Okay.
But I'll contact before we put out the signs each.
And what
each
about on
abutter
Red
is
Gate?
going.
Same thing?
Fair Oaks and Red Gate, there's been a number of residents complaining about the speed, which is kind of
Right.
the impetus for the
Yep.
project.
Okay, anybody else have any comments or questions?
I have a question.
Sergeant, hang on one sec.
Yes.
Yeah, do you mind coming up just so our viewers at
Yeah, my
home?
name's Michael O'Connell at 52 Ripley Road. And I just wanted to your question, Mr. Gomer, regarding enforcement of that. What do these signs mean?
I pass that off to the enforcement officer.
Yeah.
Mainly a deterrent,
Yeah.
a visual deterrent, augmented by signboards and patrol that would be enforcing the per se speed. But I'd say mainly visually for a deterrent for passers through the neighborhood.
Okay. So what had come up before, Mr. O'Connell, is that what's enforceable or likely enforceable in court is, you may remember when you took your driving test, there are certain speeds in certain areas that are, without posting, enforceable. So like a residential neighborhood, if I remember correctly, is 30 miles per hour. A business district is
30 or 35. Depends on the spacing of the building.
but the idea is that that's set forth without signage. And what Mr. Joyce was saying earlier is the state will allow us to post an enforceable speed limit so long as the 85th percentile of the speed test falls in that range. And essentially, as I understood it right now, we could post Red Gate Lane at 30 miles per hour and enforce that, but we couldn't post it for less. Does that answer your question?
Well, I think it answers my question, but if any of you want to take a driving test and drive 30 miles down that street, and if you have young children,
No.
I encourage you all to do it. It's frightening.
We're
frightening.
We are aware,
Yeah.
as a matter of fact, so we can do what we
Yeah.
can do as a town. There are some restrictions as well, if I recall, with respect to putting in speed bumps and other deterrent devices. But it is something that could be explored.
Right, the state-approved signs, actually, in the speed study, try to get as close to the corner as possible to get in an area where people would be starting to reduce their speed, and they were still above the prima facie, so we actually couldn't post prima facie. We would be increasing the speed limit,
35?
potentially. And it's, and then the corner, based on the radius of the curvature and line of sight, that could be posted at 15 potentially. It was actually 16 miles per hour, but we wouldn't get what you're looking for, 20 miles per hour and 15 at the corner. So basically, we're trying to post what the residents and what we think.
I
would
do think
curb,
it'll, I do think it'll help, I think, to Sergeant Trainer's point. I think the visual deterrent and then seeing yet another one. I mean, there's no way off that road other than seeing those two signs, so hopefully it will
What
calm
does-
down the speed.
What does Parker Ave do? They have some kind of deterrents on their road. Don't they put some
They have
kind
speed
of...
bumps.
Speed bumps.
And now those, how do they, why are those legally done? Or is that,
As I recall, that was a very tortuous process, and they have to be taken up in the wintertime because they can't plow.
right, I understand that.
Yeah,
But how come, is that allowable? Do residents get together and do that sort of thing? Or do you have to get town approval for that?
Town approval.
There would be town
Okay.
approval on that.
Where would I find the town approval that they receive for that?
that's a very good question. I think
Somebody's got it.
a
It would have to have come from this office.
yeah, it would
The
have
Board of
to-
Selectmen
Must
a
have
long
needed that.
time ago.
But likewise, to answer, I think the larger question is, what other tools do we have at our disposal to manage speed? I think we would owe you a more complete answer than conjecture this evening, and if you'd humor us for the course of a week and a half, with our town manager's help, I think we can get a more complete answer.
Well, and I've been very patient in this. This has been a 2.5-year process for me. And,
First I've heard of it tonight.
well, that's,
But
I just wanna say
we
that.
appreciate that. We
Thank you.
appreciate the point. We appreciate the point. And before you conclude your commentary here, we commit to you to come back to you with some complete answers about what tools we have at our disposal, including looking at using methods like speed bumps. Okay.
thank you.
Sure.
Can I just,
Hang on, just let Karen speak.
Brian,
Sorry.
did you want to address
I
this?
I just wanted to ask Mr. O'Connell, would you support posting of locally approved speed limits, and if we can look into the speed bump issue?
But this, would I support that?
Right.
Of course I would, but what other?
It's a start,
what other
right?
else is-
It's a
I don't-
start.
Until they give me some other remedies, that's all I got.
Let me ask, if you do this, if people start to slow down, can you do another speed test
I was
and then
gonna
and then
ask.
set permanent limits that are lower?
It's
I mean, isn't that, because again,
That's a good question.
I think we should
Yeah,
explore
I
that,
think-
and if we get people to start slowing
I
down, then we
think-
can lock it in permanently. and make some-
I propose we do this, throw a police car right at the sign, and park it there with its lights on, and then do the speed study at the same time. Okay?
The thing is,
Well,
you need
right,
to do
then when
2
you take the
weeks.
car away, right.
You need to do a 2-week speed study,
Yeah.
but,
No, I
it's a
definitely
lot of
think we should
overtime.
see if it has slowed people down and then take the next step.
Now?
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm perfectly in support of this, and I don't want anybody to take my remarks and thinking that they're not, but I think that we have a larger problem all throughout the town. That this problem is not restricted to just these two neighborhoods. There are many neighborhoods in this town where children are walking to school and cars are speeding. They're hilly terrain, because that's what we have in some of our places. They're very narrow roads. And so the bigger issue here is we can put a Band-Aid on this and we can take care of one neighborhood or two neighborhoods. But there are many more neighborhoods out there. And so what is the long-range solution here? How do we as a community start driving more safely? I mean, I spoke a couple of months ago, was it, or weeks ago, in regard to Clay Spring Road and Pond Street. Lots of children walking to schools. The police did post the speed thing. There was a police car there for a few days. They're gone, the speeding is back. So the kids are still there, or at least for the next couple of weeks, walking to school. What is the solution here for us as a community? You know, other than just putting these signs up all over town and say nobody can drive over 20 miles an hour in Cohasset. But then it can't be enforced anyway. It's a larger problem that we need to address as a community.
May I respond to that? I'm not sure.
If you could just come up,
Sure.
so everybody, and you, please identify yourself and
My
your
name's
address.
Kristen Vanning. I'm Mike's daughter, and I live on Redgate Lane.
Yeah.
My two little kids live and play outside the street, and we live, you know, it's not anyone's fault where we live at the bottom of the two hills. And so people naturally will accelerate coming that. I understand that. I don't know if your question was rhetorical about the, you know, how do we solve this?
If you've got an answer,
Well, I know how it works for me, and whenever I've gotten a speeding ticket in a certain spot, I never forget it. So if I know that I'm going over the speed limit in that spot again, shame on me. And the only way people are gonna get a speeding ticket is if they see the sign and they know that they're going above that number. And there's a police officer there who can back that up. So that's one step that I think most people in this room would agree on, that you don't forget somewhere you got pulled over. And you don't make that, you don't run that light again, you don't speed down that street again. And, because you don't want to pay for it. So
that's true.
that's my answer to your
Thank
question
you.
that might have been rhetorical.
Thank you very much.
Well, I mean, to Karen's point, there's a lot to discuss. I mean, people do this, and, I mean, people heard that story about the
Forest
woman that
Ave.
got killed in Sharon yesterday. Just somebody speeding around a curve.
I was walking my dogs the other day, I swear the
Jump
woman
in
on the cell phone in the SUV was heading straight for me, even though I had my yellow slicker on.
This is a good step. I think it's a first step. and
This
I
is
think-
an excellent
right,
first
and-
step for
and,
this-
and
these
I-
neighborhoods.
You know, and I think we just need to stay on top of it and then continue to address it. I've been as amazed as anyone at how the state does this. I mean, I literally asked, I said, is that true? I said, and I looked at the person from the DOT and they said yes, and I said, well, I don't want a speed study that's gonna lock our speeds up higher.
Yeah, so we had this study on, the 3A study,
Yeah.
we talked about reducing speed limits or making them, and you know, it's one of those, be careful what you wish for, you get the speed study, you can actually
It's
increase
state
the
law,
speed.
right,
Right.
right.
So, but I think that we should make sure that we follow up on this to make sure speeds are going down, and then see if we can't follow up and see if we can't lock some things in as we go. So please stay in contact with us on this.
Yeah, and I
we'll
do
stay in
think,
contact.
I mean, I understand we only have, whatever, 3 cars on the road at any time, but
That's
I do
right.
think some periodic, you know, throughout the town, you know, police officers sitting there and, you know, pull them over, even if there's no ticket issued, it's gonna make them pause the next time they drive down that street. So, all right, so,
Before you move on, just
I need a motion, but
Oh,
go ahead.
I'm sorry.
You say
Yes.
what you need to say.
No, I'll come back to it.
Okay.
Move that we approve the signage plans as presented. You know what, I'll leave it there for the moment. Move that we approve the signage plans as presented.
Do we wanna say with the addition of a second sign?
No, I'm gonna come back to that.
I'll come back, because I don't wanna hold this up.
Would it hold it up?
Yeah, because Brian will come back to us with a second proposal as to where any new signage.
I can come back with a separate.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Is there a second? Second.
Is there any advantage to having the signs all printed at one time?
Yeah, I'll get the second, we
Okay.
can use it regardless of the approval of the next one.
Okay.
so.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passes 4-0, 1 abstention, that's Kevin.
This,
Come back.
and my follow-up is just, Chris, maybe in a separate phone call, conversation, you and I, along with Brian and Sergeant Trainer, can figure out what tools we have at our disposal to respond to Mr. O'Connor.
There's also things that the neighbors could do. I mean, the way you position your cars, if you park in the street and you
We've done that.
coordinate, you know, you so that you can calm traffic on your own.
Yeah, we've done that, kind of collectively, that'd be great. People have signs out.
Sure. But I mean, a car right, you know, if you're parking cars opposite each other,
Yeah.
so people have to sort of slalom through.
Yeah, and that works.
It
It
does.
does work, but when those people aren't home, my kids are out.
Yeah, and there's
Those
also
people at
things,
work.
you know, if you've been through Cambridge at all, you know, there's traffic humps as opposed to traffic
Right.
bumps. And,
They're bigger.
they'll put you right through the sunroof.
The wider, yeah.
I wonder if there's any state grant money for those little guys,
green
you know,
guys?
those little
We have a
cone,
project.
those little green guys,
Those are hard.
to buy a bunch. Yeah.
You just get knocked over.
Yeah, sometimes they end up in someone's dorm room.
Chief Quigley's talking about traffic humps, which are fairly common in other parts of the country, and you're right. I mean, if you hit one of those going 25 or 30 miles an hour, your head's
Yeah.
peeling it off the ceiling.
But,
So,
are those permanent, or are they?
They up front, they don't affect the plows
plow.
like a speed bump would. They're very effective and they're marked. And again, they use them extensively in places like Cambridge. And there's also, you know, bump outs that can be built in. But it's like Karen said, it's part of a large discussion.
Well, something
Well,
we
we probably have them all
promise
over
to stay on
town.
top of, because I think I used to have like a bullhorn, and I'd say, slow down, you know, when I had little kids out in the street, and I appreciate, you know, it's scary. Okay,
okay.
thank you, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll leave this up to three.
Okay. Next on the agenda is appointments of the Assistant Harbor Masters. So I think Lori's here. Come on down.
It's the start of a long season.
Hmm?
It's the start of a long season.
Oh, it already started.
Yeah,
We'll let Kevin get some,
and they're digging up in front of you.
getting some signs.
Okay.
Okay, Lori, so just describe what we're doing here in terms of improving the
I just
Harbor Masters.
need to, these people have always been appointed automatically. Apparently there's some change, and I have to come here now.
We have 6.
We just like to see you.
You say 4 individuals, and yet there's 6.
It was a typo.
You're just testing to see if you're reading.
So these
People are
are,
really paying
these are just
attention.
people that you're hiring for the summer to assist you in monitoring the harbor.
And these are individuals that you have,
Yes. Prior.
some for a long time and some for,
Yes. And there's one that, there's only
Top-
5.
yeah,
The top one
is not.
is not
It was
being appointed. He's not working this year.
It was changed as
Oh,
of
okay.
today.
Okay. So we're, if I could have a motion to.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What does an assistant harbor master do?
Whatever I tell him to do. He,
Get a coffee.
patrols around, helps tow boats, rescues, whatever we need to do, they do.
Speed enforcement.
Repairing boats, docks,
How many do you
cleaning
usually
boats.
have on at one time?
Weekends, we like to have about 5, and weekdays, 1 or 2 with me, depending upon people's work schedules.
Are most of them out on the water?
On weekends, yes,
And these are paid positions?
that's correct.
So,
I have a question, excuse me.
sure.
These are really town employees.
Yeah,
They're part-time.
They're part-time.
They're
Or seasonal.
part-time seasonal, so is it really,
They also
is
have-
that what's in the bylaws, or is there a reason that we're appointing?
Yes, the selectmen have to appoint them under
You
the, I
do.
believe, under the.
In the past, it's always been town manager who's done it
Yeah,
for ages.
This is a longer conversation,
Yeah,
but we'll
I-
touch upon it a little bit tonight, just when we discuss committee appointments, because there's a lot of things. I sat down with Chris and Tracy and Jen and Carol St. Pierre, and we went through all the committees and appointments, and there's all kinds of people in buckets that don't seem to make any sense to us.
Indeed.
So Carol's doing a lot of due diligence to figure which can we take out of the selectmen appointment bucket, which need to be there and why, and if we need to change a bylaw, so that we're not approving basically summer town employees, we'll discuss that at a later date. So, yeah,
So as currently exists, we appoint.
whatever reason, we're appointing the slate.
All right.
Better safe than sorry, right? I sign the form anyway.
He'll
so.
sign it anyway. We'll make sure they're all done. Sorry that Lori had to give up her evening for us. I'd like a motion to approve David Desmond, Robert Johnson, Nicholas Johnson, Ryan McDonald, and Timothy Manganello.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Oh, sorry. Mr. Pescatore, you gotta come up, please. Sorry.
Peter Pescatore, Advisory Committee, so you're gonna appoint all the temporary people for rec and police?
I don't think they're on, I don't know.
I think this is a bylaw issue, Peter. I think in the bylaws it might say that the selectmen appoint. That's why I was asking, and I didn't bring my bylaws with me tonight.
We went through this with Carol, and
Does
I don't
anyone know-
remember.
No,
The bylaws specifically?
Rec people are just like, they're part-time somewhere, like a public works person, it's different. These,
Part-time, so-
and actually, I signed off on the police, the special police the other day, or the permanent intern.
I mean, there's listed in the town report, there's issues, like fence viewers and things that are also town
Yeah, yeah.
employees. And we just felt like to cover our bases, we would
But this is
make this
absolutely
appointment.
a bylaw issue?
Well,
That
It's in the
was-
bylaws?
Tracy,
That, I don't recall because we went through so much that day.
What can I ask a
There
question?
was a reason why they've been coming, or we're supposed to be doing
I
this.
think, as I recall, they're a legal issue because they might be involved with
Yeah, they have
arresting
some.
people or something. At least that's what it was way back. I don't know how it's evolved.
It's a member of the constabulary.
Yeah.
But,
That's
we
why
don't
we
appoint the
appoint
special
them.
police officers.
Don't look at me.
I
Go
know.
to the rec people.
Or
It's
the
not
rec
in the
people.
bylaws.
Peter, what is
Start the
the
bottom.
point of your question, is it so that you would wanna see us be consistent in what we do, or is there
Yes.
another reason?
Yes.
Yes,
Just-
absolutely.
Just consistency
Yeah.
in throughout
Yeah,
the
yeah.
decision
That-
making.
If
That's
you're
why I
gonna do it for
brought it up
one,
too.
do it for all, or don't do it for all.
Yeah.
It
Well-
seems to me that it's more in the purview of the town manager, is my real
I
point.
could not agree, we had this discussion, I don't, Chris, do you remember why?
Because I wasn't, I remember
Yeah,
I was
you
at a
went in
meeting for
and
like,
out.
I was in a meeting, and I honestly was not there during this conversation.
Is there any harm in
No.
us doing this? And Peter,
At worst,
we're
it's
completely on it,
superfluous, so
because there's a whole bunch of other even committees that were kind of stuck on this, under the selectmen
You get to
appointments.
see Lori, what, it's,
Committees
Yeah.
are one thing, but, these are part-time employees.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely.
No, I agree with you.
So,
Yep.
Let's move along.
Okay, so we had a motion?
we did.
Yeah.
Okay, second?
I
It has.
Okay.
I
all-
made the
all right.
motion and Kevin seconded.
Thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And we're,
Follow.
we are on this.
Have a safe summer.
Chris told me we
But-
can't change Rome in one day, right?
Just a
Or
quick question.
build it, or tear it down, or anything.
Something.
Do
Something
you-
like that.
Do you have the new pump out vote yet?
No, that's gonna be a long process.
Oh, okay, all right. That was my question.
Couple of years down the road.
Oh, in the
In-
sailboat? Oh, is it out?
No, it's still there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I thought we'd have a pirate exhibition.
There's an idea. Can we put-
Lori,
We're working on it.
Thanks.
It's a
That-
difficult
I-
situation.
it's about the same time as the pump out vote?
Okay.
No.
we had a conversation, it was a very informal kind of off the thing, with Wayne Sawchuk of the Sewer Commission about the pump out station. Has that gone any further?
No, we're not gonna go
We're
any
not-
further with it.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we're all set.
All right.
There's no place to move it to. We're gonna keep it right
I
where it
talked
is.
to Wayne, there's
There's
no
no-
alternatives place to go.
There isn't a way to do it that would encapsulate it better or anything?
No.
No, okay.
No.
Okay.
Thanks,
We
Lori.
tried.
Off the
Thank
radar.
you.
Thank you. Sorry about
Thank
any
you.
confusion, Lori.
No problem.
Okay, so now we're gonna move on to a discussion of committees and boards. So, good segue. So we did meet and barely got through everything, and Carol is looking into some things like this. There are some appointments in the town report, that was sort of our ground zero. That were listed under Board of Selectmen that haven't traditionally been done by the Board of Selectmen. So we're gonna try to resolve and define all of that over the next couple of months. So for tonight, I just wanted to go over liaisons, and also kind of give you a sense of what I think, which appointments we're gonna make on July 1st.
Diane, there were also, are you looking at the committees that haven't met for a while and are somewhat
Yes.
inactive?
So, basically, when we met, and we haven't resolved anything, a lot of it is gonna be for the board to resolve. But the committees that are currently active, that we are planning to do appointments for, or reappointments, on July 1st. And if you're looking at, probably either the committee application form would be good, if you have that, and I'm sorry, I didn't make, but it's a Cable Advisory, Community Television Corporation, Cohasset Common Historic District, Cohasset Cultural Council, Community Preservation Committee, Conservation Commission, Council on Elder Affairs, Harbor Committee, Historical Commission, OPEB Committee, Open Space and Recreation, Registrar of Voters, which actually comes to us.
Actually, the Open Space Committee hasn't met.
Let's get to that in a sec,
Okay.
yep. Talk about that. Zoning Board of Appeals, we've done Social Regional School District. And then, and I'm gonna back up in a sec, and then Norfolk County Advisory Board, Metropolitan Area Planning Council. On those two, Norfolk County Advisory Board, it has to be a member of the Board of Selectmen. Fred has held that role, Kevin expressed some interest in it, so when we talk about liaisons in a minute, we'll go there. The Metropolitan Area Planning Council, MAPC, is a little different. We actually got a citizen application for that position.
I tell you how they used to have it in the past. It used to be a member of the planning board. That, because the MAPC is planning.
So I was, if you don't mind us discussing this right now, because we did get somebody from the community who was interested. I had previously been looking at it, Fred has been the liaison there.
Well,
I wondered if it might be something that Fred would be interested in continuing with. And then when I went online, most of the, and I went to towns that I know pretty well, and most of the people that were the MAPC reps from the individual communities were their town administrators. And there were some planning
And I was
board
too.
staff members, you know.
I was at, when I was on the planning board, and then when I became a selectman, I also was on there, and ended up an officer out of the MAPC and got stuff. So a lot of people are planning, and at least the past, plus selectmen or town managers.
Right.
That's the group.
So I guess the question is, you know, one, like I said, I did reach out to Fred to see if he had any interest in continuing. I haven't heard from him, it was just yesterday, so that's a possibility. But if not, should we entertain an appointment from the community, or should we ask our town manager?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that it has such quasi-governmental, and there's so many things we tie into it. If we don't have somebody who's part of the day-to-day administration of government, I don't think we're going to be tied into it well enough. Doesn't mean people should be able to participate in general, but I've already, I've been really living here more than anything for good reason. But it is something I think we need to stay in contact with. There's so many things they do, and so much money they control, and so many grants they administer, that we need to stay really in regular contact.
So
Again, if someone else, if someone on the board wants to do it, or if Fred or wants to do it, that would be fine. But I'm happy to do it if the board wants me to.
I agree with you, and I think that any of us are probably just not as tied into everything that's happening in the town as either you or Brian might be. And it certainly makes sense, in my opinion, to have that.
I'll tell you what it entails. There's 3 or 4 meetings a year. One of it's when they nominate a board and the officers. They also have sub-meetings in various communities you go to. And another thing that is helpful, you're right on the cusp of finding out grants that are coming up. And particularly when I was on, I was able to bring the grants. And if you, for instance, want 3A funding for that, if you're the rep or involved with the officers or executive committee, it's easier to get funds. You meet different people from the politics. You have a lot of the legislators come there, and sometimes the governor or the cabinet. And so it should be like Chris or in planning or selectmen. It's a good conduit for the town, and usually small towns don't get anything, and I was able to get things. I just happen to be, I'm not interested in doing it because I've done it, and I think newer people should do it. But it is very valuable. You can find a lot of stuff that you wouldn't normally find, although Chris has been pretty good at getting some grants these days.
So just going back to some of the committees that I'm recommending with your input that and I think I'm looking at an old list, and I apologize, I didn't make a copy of this, but we're gonna sort of just table for the moment the Affordable Housing Trust, Economic Development Committee, the Government Island Advisory Committee, Recycling Committee, and the Town Hall Study Committee. Because, and Senior Center Planning Group, if anybody still has it on their list. Each of those committees need a separate discussion. Some exist and they have people with unexpired terms and they need a new charge. Some are, just need to be completely reconstituted. Some are, like the Government Island Advisory Committee. There's been one person on it for a long time, and it has done nothing, but it's in the bylaws. So we need to have a conversation about whether we want to go to town meeting and remove it from the bylaws. Others need to be formally sunsetted or recharged or something. So the ones that are not functional, we're just gonna put off till we get through the ones that are actually meeting on a somewhat regular basis. Open Space and Rec Committee, there were,
Okay, go ahead.
yeah, now my understanding, and you can fill in the blanks, is that it was pretty dormant for a while. It had a few new people put on last year, and I was told by, I think it was somebody in town hall, I think it was Ted Carroll, that this was an important committee to have for some grant purposes.
It is, and it was reformatted in order to do an open space and recreation plan, which was
Mhm.
done, and the committee worked really hard on it. I was liaison to it. Once the plan was done, nothing ever happened going forward to that. And I think a couple of people did ask to be reappointed, but it's never gone anywhere. And it really is an important committee, and it's through the state, and it has a lot of authority. If you read the plan, it has great plans for the town, but without a committee to oversee it and move it forward, it just sits on the shelf and gathers dust.
So, excuse me,
Yep.
let's take this conversation just a couple steps further, because, I mean, this is the kind of committee, like maybe Economic Development Committee, that with the proper charge could really make a huge difference. But here's why I don't necessarily want to put them in the we'll deal with it later bucket, because they do actually have committee members that maybe we just need to infuse with energy, A. B, there's an Open Space and Recreation Committee representative that's supposed to sit on Community Preservation Committee, CPC.
They don't come.
There's nobody.
And nobody's come. So I have something I want to talk out with all of you. One is the community, so let's go now to the Community Preservation Committee, if you're following my train of thinking here. So CPC, there's a few people, just so you know, that need their terms reset. In 2011, there was kind of an exodus off of CPC, so a lot of people were reappointed, and they were reappointed for full 3-year terms, even though they were actually taking on a term that might have been just a year or two. So we're gonna reset some of the appointment dates. Again, Carol and I, Tracy and Jen have been working on that. One of the things on CPC is there's been a member of the Board of Selectmen that has sat on CPC. I love CPC. It probably was my favorite meeting to go to. I don't think it's really, I don't think it's appropriate for a selectman to sit on CPC. So I went back to the original legislation, and Chris did as well, and it asks for somebody who's on the Board of Park Commissioners, which is either open space or I was thinking Recreation Commission. So should it be somebody that's a rec commissioner? It was more like a park commissioner than a Board of Selectmen member. I don't know, I mean, this is just something I want to flesh out with all of you.
Yeah, I think there is no Board of Park Commissioners. I think the selectmen sit as the Board of Park Commissioners, which is a reason I think it's selectmen saying. But I also understand your point.
How would that be?
Right, it's in the bylaws, I think.
No, the selectmen of the rec.
No, I
I just read it recently.
Okay.
It's either the bylaw or it's the Town Manager Act.
State law and all this stuff is really kind of convoluted. I'm not pretending that I've read it today
Okay.
So, your point though is, and again, these all come back to the board anyway
Yeah.
for review, right?
Acting as tree, park, and cemetery commissioners.
The Board of Selectmen?
Yeah.
Can you just read that, sorry?
I'm sorry, it's, where's back, it's section 2, selectmen.
I just see park and rec is the same, but.
No.
I could be wrong.
It does
lost
make
it now.
logical sense, by the
That's
way,
okay. Yeah.
to have some, because the town has a
Oh,
recreation.
here it is. It's J2, acting as tree, park, and cemetery commission, and in that connection shall, among other things, care for and maintain trees, playgrounds, and public parks, including Wheelwright Park, in conformity with the Massachusetts general laws and with provisions of specific requests.
We need these bylaws cleaned up.
Well,
Like the cemetery.
Well, you do, you're.
Yeah, we do, yep, we are, yep. And we've dealt with that. Okay, so,
But your thought is to make, rec does do active, I mean,
And I think that works
But
because you give monies for.
Well, recreation goes
fees.
before to request, so then they'd have to recuse themselves.
That's true.
yeah, but so does a lot of, you know, potentially some of the others. Housing Authority, you know, and that's by bylaw, or by Mass General Law. Housing Authority, Historical Commission, Board of Park Commissioners, these are the required seats, Planning Board, Conservation Commission. Okay, so set that aside for a minute. The other piece of this is, we do have an application for CPC. Somebody in the community wanted to be appointed to CPC. None of the open, well, I shouldn't say that. There's, I think, one of the at-large seats is available, but one of those at-large people, who happens to be the chairman, is interested in being reappointed. So I was wondering if maybe this other person would be interested in being appointed to Open Space and Rec, and then serving CPC through that capacity, because there is that space on CPC that's available. So forget my whole Selectman rant from a few minutes ago. But that is one way to get a new interest onto CPC, if we can do it through Open Space and Rec, knowing that that's an important committee, and kind of re-energizing that
It
through
really
our.
needs to be re-energized. It's an important committee.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a very good
Does
solution.
that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, all right,
Is that
so,
Mr. Carroll?
yeah, Dick Haroff, yep. So we'll,
Did the chair? I haven't seen an application.
I'm pretty sure Russ Bonetti sent in a reappointment.
I don't think he did. I don't think
I'm
he
not
did.
sure.
I know he's
I don't know.
I think he
you know what,
did.
There's a lot.
Yeah, we're gonna,
I think I've sent everybody what.
I think
so
you have, and
yeah.
I
Let's see it.
I'm
Maybe,
pretty sure
Our
we got
deadline's
something
already
from him
being
earlier.
tasted.
Yeah, our deadline, yeah, it is a little bit of a fuzzy deadline, but we need everything by the end of this week, so we can put together packets of things going forward. Okay, if I could just, I don't want to take up too much. I promised somebody that we would be very efficient tonight. I just also want you to, I think you were all set, the selectmen liaisons. The only thing that's missing, I think I gave everybody almost everything that they wanted. I made sure that there was either Steve or I, as chairman and vice chairman, were at least one of two selectmen that were liaison to the Troika appointed committees, just because I think it makes sense for somebody that's gonna be part of the nominate, or part of the appointing authority, to be on top of that. And the only other thing that I took out of our liaison list is the departments. Chris and I had a conversation about that, and in many ways, the departments aren't meeting. You know, police don't have a meeting, or fire doesn't have a meeting that's really appropriate for us to be at. And I think that my understanding is that the departmental liaison function sort of predates the town manager. So I don't know if you want to weigh in. The other thing to think about as well is we got a letter from many of the town employees, mostly in town hall, asking if a selectman could occasionally come to one of their staff meetings, which obviously I think any of us would be willing to establish any kind of relationship. But the truth is, I think we have to go through the town manager. And that's why I just pulled back those departments. Doesn't mean we can't pay attention, but there's really no regular meeting.
Yeah, I think I've reestablished regular manager meetings, which are pretty broadly attended.
I don't see why we should go.
No, and Kevin and I actually talked earlier today about just doing a go, again, if you're even if you've been around town for a long time, you may not even know where everything is and who people are, and I'm happy to, to walk people around and say, hey, by the way, have you met any selectmen who haven't, so we're gonna do that actually over the next couple of weeks. And again, we've already started to do some of that with the South Shore Votek and get to some other places to make sure that everyone's familiar with them. We'll continue. I think that'll be helpful, and people know that they can reach out to you. It's not like anyone's, but I'm
Right.
I've also, I think, I'm trying to make sure that, that things flow in a way that I know what's going on too. So you should most certainly, be plugged in. There's no question. I will continue to make sure that's happening. But if you have a sidebar conversation, I don't know that about that's a constituent issue, that doesn't help me run the town. Doesn't mean you shouldn't have contact with folks. And I'm not saying that there shouldn't be. It's just I think it's for official stuff. It should really flow in a way that I know what's going on. And again, I'm happy to say, sure, I'll talk to them directly. I'll plug you right in. I'll talk to her directly. I'll plug you right in. That's not the problem. So, I mean, and again, I think on some of the, some already have like little side advisory committees anyway, which I know that Martha attends when the police do. Parking brings a lot of people together, and there's a lot of these informal group meetings.
Oh, yeah, I belong to the ad hoc, police.
That's not a town committee.
It's not a.
No, I know, but I'm saying there's ways of also interacting
You're right.
with that.
I had thought of parking this afternoon. I'm very interested in that. Is there a way I could jump on that with you?
So-
I wasn't here when that was set up, so I don't know.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and Fred, obviously it's open to anybody that wants to participate. Brian, when was the last, do you mind coming up and
Sure.
just, because I haven't been to a parking committee meeting, but I know you guys have moved some things in-house, sort of.
Right, so we were mentioning MAPC not too long ago. We met Chief Quigley, Sergeant Trainer, Jen Oram, and myself. We met with an MAPC parking engineer. There's another title, but basically that's what it is. So she, MAPC is partnering with the town and doing a parking study. They're coming up with a scope and a budget for that, and they are going to pay for the majority of it. We just need to get the budget, and the town needs to kick in a small portion, which may be a couple $1,000s, but it's basically the limits of what we discussed were the entire common area through the village, Brook, Elm, the parking lot, up Ripley Road, and then the satellite, well, it's not really satellite, but the parking lot across the train tracks on Pleasant Street. And she, her name is Sarah Kerpiel. She's coming to our next parking task force meeting. And I don't know that that's a committee. I think it's just a group.
Yeah. So I don't know whether it's time to just take it in-house, and those citizens that came in and weighed in, there was a doctor down on Parking Way, there was Chamber of Commerce.
I'm happy to have it go in-house. It seems like
The more the merrier. I mean,
Yep.
But it is something the selectmen make a
Set up.
decision on.
Yep.
So I think that somehow we need to be in the loop, whether it's just a reporting
So
function.
I'll tell Jen just to keep me apprised, and I'll send it out to you and anybody else. I'll send it out to everybody on the board, and if anybody wants to come to the meetings, absolutely. Because it's,
Just be careful that there aren't 3 or more of you in a ring.
Well, yeah, that happened. We'll back out, right?
Yeah.
I'll leave gracefully.
so I think the next meeting, we have been meeting at the police station, but I think the next meeting will be here at Town Hall, and Jen usually sets them up.
Okay, all right.
I mean, as I said, I'm happy to have it go that way. I just think that there needs to be some kind of a information flow so that we understand, because I put it down on my goals, my list of goals, and because it didn't, I was unaware, it was obviously being taken care of, but I was unaware that it was being taken care of.
Actually, I've been promised the scope and the budget tomorrow via email, so I'll email to Chris, and Chris can.
That would be great. Thank you so
Maybe
much,
we can do an
Brian. That's
update.
super. That's really a good thing.
There's a lot of good stuff
A
moving.
lot of good stuff.
We'll get an update on that, probably.
Yes, we will.
We need to know about it, and more importantly, the people in the town need to
Yeah.
know about it, because you do so much, and they don't know that. And they need to.
Okay. All right, does anybody have anything else to weigh in on
I
with
do, yeah.
respect to the liaisons and committees? Yes.
I noticed, I was looking through the budget process that we're gonna be going through, you know, setting up and so
Mhm.
forth. And the first step, you know, calls for the selectmen do the directions and so forth,
Mhm.
policies.
Mhm.
But it calls for the participation of the budget planning group, so I just wanted to surface, are we gonna be addressing that at some point, or it seems it calls for them to be involved within the next, starting in August, but it seemed like that's a pretty useful group and so forth. Are we gonna, how's that function gonna be done?
I think that was something, I
Peter
can't
is-
remember whether it was
You talk to Peter. He
Well,
knows all about it.
before the election or since you've been on the board, but I thought that it was something that we had committed to reviewing the process and the procedures, and I was hoping that that was something that might come up during our goals.
Yeah, I mean, I've most certainly committed to a process where we put key people at the table, and I think that we need to have that conversation. And we could talk more, you know, we can certainly talk more next week.
One thing I'm concerned about is
Yeah.
I do know there may be a number of citizens that wanna be part of such a group. Yeah, I'm just
Right.
wondering,
Well,
do we wanna
yeah.
discuss this at the goals and
I
session?
think we should discuss it. I mean, I think it's important to know, look at the history of how that came to be,
Yep.
what void it filled, and determine what its role might be going forward,
Fine.
because things have changed dramatically since that
That's
time.
fine,
And that
as long as we're gonna address that.
Right, and that committee specifically was chair, vice chair of the selectmen, chair, vice chair of capital
Right.
budget, chair, vice chair of whatever.
It wasn't a committee.
No.
No.
I mean, no
No.
matter what it was called, it wasn't a formal.
Well, it is in
Well,
part
it was
of,
appointed by the
It
board
was
of
a group.
selectmen.
it's part of, it's written into part of our procedures too, so.
Yeah.
No, I know.
So
Correct.
so we have a good smooth budget process this year, just,
Absolutely.
I wanna make sure that that's surfaced and addressed,
gonna-
whether we're gonna do it or not.
I'm gonna let Chris talk, and then I know Peter wants to weigh in, and then I wanna segue this right into the
Yeah,
next.
I would strongly urge that we continue this conversation at the Goals and Objectives meeting without, I mean, again, we've spoken a little bit about this too. Other communities have done a variety of things, and I had talked with folks about that, and I, you know, I think, again, I am committed to making sure that we have the right people around the table during the long-range, you know, visioning and long-range forecasting, because that's really where I think a lot of the conversations need to take place. And exactly how we, you know, what we end up formally or informally continuing to move with is still open for conversation. I'm
We'll
still
discuss
looking
it,
for
so-
input and you know, we are gonna, we are gonna do something, because I think, you know, we need to continue to have key people at the table visioning, I hate to use that term, but it's what, budget
Good
visioning,
word.
right? And forecasting, so.
So Peter, why don't you come on up, if you don't mind, and one, just to Kevin's point, and then maybe we'll jump right into, the town manager review process, because one of his things is financial
Well, I had
management
another- I had
policies, and
another
that's a
point I
piece of
wanna
it.
make too
All right, do
quickly.
you mind if I just
No,
recognize
no,
Peter?
before we
Go
jump
ahead.
into this.
I've got two items I'd like to discuss. One is what you brought up is selectmen on boards. I've had for a few years, had a real objection to having selectmen sit as voting members on other boards, because most of the business of the town has to come to the selectmen to
Anyway.
be
It's double
adjudicated,
dipping.
and it's a conflict of interest to vote on items that are then gonna come to you for a vote. Now, Steve's a great resource for OPEB, but you can still be a great resource for OPEB
As a
as a
liaison,
liaison
yes.
and not as a voting member. And while we're talking about the OPEB, I saw that there was 3 positions open on the OPEB committee.
There are only one-year appointments, so.
There are no appointments. It was set up by Mike. The OPEB committee was put together by Mike, and you guys, they self-elect their own participants.
Peter,
and-
I embarrassed myself with that exact same messaging at the OPEB meeting, and I basically said it was and I went back in the minutes of the Board of Selectmen, and we approved a charge, and we approved all 3 of those
Okay.
members
Well, I must have
for
missed
one-year
those.
terms that are expiring on June 30th, 2014.
Okay.
So there are 3 positions open.
I
I believe
stand
most of the
corrected.
3 members.
But my only point
I
is
went on that
really
same
you ought to
thing.
consider that selectmen should be strong liaison and be resources, but I really don't think selectmen should sit on other boards that then have to bring process.
I agree
we're
with
with
you,
you.
and just as a point of clarification, my role with the OPEB committee is as liaison, I don't have a
Okay.
vote.
Should there also people who are elected officials, another board, should they be on the boards that would then necessarily vote?
Well, if they're not, if they're not going to be voting on the process that that particular board brings forward, then I don't think there's a conflict, but
Well, even if
to
they're
each
not,
his own, I don't know.
even if they're not voting on it, if it is in regard to something that may be affecting their board and what they do.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I think there's an innate conflict
the
of
bylaws
interest.
aren't, are pretty silent on all that
Well, and
kind of
Mass
stuff,
General
so-
Law sets up CPC, for example, with all of these
So,
people. So I definitely, I agree with you.
The inherent conflict that I think Peter refers to is that selectmen generally have, in most cases, a final vote. If a member of the Board of Selectmen ends up being a cheerleader for a particular project, endeavor, item, or consideration in front of another committee, it by definition begins to steer that selectman's objectivity away from what might be in the larger interest of the town. So,
yeah, I mean, you're all knowledgeable and you're great resources for committees and, as a liaison, you get to speak on, on your points, just as I do.
I agree. Was there another point, or then Kevin had a point? Was that the only point?
The budget planning group was voted out of existence at town meeting, and I don't know what else you want to do. I think Chris and I have been talking about, a visioning, a long-term planning group.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way to go.
I don't think it was voted out of existence at town meeting. It was recommended to become a bylaw, which was not accepted at town meeting. That doesn't mean that the way it's been carrying on for the last 3 years isn't right, but I know Chris really wanted to have the opportunity to compose that committee himself.
function.
And that function himself, so
Right, and
we're
I
gonna go there, and
totally
we're gonna
agree
go
with
there next Thursday night at our.
I totally agree with you.
At our goals and objectives session. Back to Kevin, and then I wanna move on.
Just a number of the items that you brought up about committees and terms and charters and what's in bylaws and what's not, it seems to call out for something similar to what used to be the governance committee. Are we gonna, is that something that can be discussed and that we should be discussing as to whether or not to establish a group? Or are we gonna do that all, I certainly don't think we're gonna do that all ourselves, right? But it seems like there's a function
That
there
is
that
the
we should be
discussion we
discussing.
need to have, and it's, when we met, Carol and Tracy, Jen, and Chris and I last week, we had the governance committee, like 11 by 17, massive 80-page document, where we found a lot of this information, where we found the charges, where we found, the wastewater committee sunsetted, but maybe they didn't sunset officially. So a lot of that information and work has been done. And when this island of misfit committees, we will absolutely address in the context of how to go out and address what to do with all of them. And it will necessitate the conversation about forming a group to do that.
Maybe we could discuss that in our goals and strategy sessions.
We can do that, and probably.
There are also resources available to us through the MMA or through Collins Center to come out and talk to us and give us, objective perspective on how we might best structure our government.
Fine. Yeah, as long as it's not the case. I had one other thing, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I know you want to move along, but it says on the agenda for the liaison to discuss the roles. Can we discuss those roles, or do we have?
So yeah,
As
actually.
to roughly what the roles are, we've been,
Did I send this out? Did you guys get this?
No.
it was on the
You
agenda.
sent something out. No.
Did we send this out?
No.
No, I was looking for it, I thought I lost it.
I just have this sheet, this one sheet.
Okay. So this is basically, sorry, I did this last night. I thought we were gonna.
I have one.
And I said I was gonna make copies, right? So these are the committees minus the departments. Like I said, I think everybody has what they've been doing in the past. And I wrote this out just in general, and I would love some feedback on it. Members of the Board of Selectmen are liaisons to various town committees and boards. The Selectmen liaisons facilitate communication and cooperation between the boards. Selectmen are not members of the committees to which they are liaisons. In some cases, temporary study or ad hoc committees may be formed by the board or the town manager and may include selectmen as members, although we just had
I thought it was
discussion.
school committee.
I forget, school committee? Sorry, Martha, that was an error, thank you.
Yeah.
You're good, quick.
I have the other sheet, that's why I.
Yeah, absolutely, it was intended to be there.
You might wanna add something in there about the, liaisons, to facilitate the selectmen act as resources.
Well, I also, when a committee, will if I'm in a meeting, they may ask me to bring something to you, to the board. To the board.
I think I'm
Yeah.
trying to say that in here,
Yeah.
maybe it's not
Yeah.
clear enough.
No,
Yep.
it's clear, it's
Yep,
clear
that's
enough.
exactly,
But I do try to do that.
yep.
To do, what is that again here?
Well, if you go to a committee and there's something that's important, they either ask you or you think it should be brought up as a discussion item, either positive, so you inform the board, because we can't.
So we should bring those things back to this
That's
board
right.
and
That's
discuss
what
it
I've
during
been
the
doing.
selectmen's comment period, is that the idea?
That's right.
Or bring it up for a future agenda item during this.
During the selectmen's
Yep.
comment.
And
we
they
discuss-
might ask you to do that too.
Yeah.
I tried to do that myself.
Now,
We don't-
what about, you're on various boards, but you may attend board meetings of things that you're not on this
Oh,
list.
absolutely.
So, for example,
Highly
I'm not on the school
encouraged.
committee board, but I could go to the school committee and.
That's only because they already have 2 people, so that's why I didn't assign you school committee, I know you asked for it.
Right.
But Martha and I didn't want to give it up, frankly.
Okay, but I can go to those meetings and sit
Absolutely.
and participate as a.
You sit at the other side of the room and don't.
Is
Yeah,
that-
yeah,
is
can't
that-
talk to
well,
us.
Well, what about, is there a rule regarding if there's 3 of us at a meeting, should one of us be leaving?
The open meet, no, you don't have to leave.
We
The
don't
open
have to.
meeting
We
law
don't
was
discuss.
revised a few years ago.
So we can just sit there, we just don't make, we
We
don't
just
talk
can't
amongst
deliberate and
ourselves.
talk.
Like Chris said, we sit separate from each other,
Yeah,
so
you
to
can participate in the discussion, though.
with us, but
With
not
the- with not
deliberate.
among-
Gotcha. So we're welcome to all go around, it's just that we're
Yep.
specially assigned to some of these, essentially to be a conduit, a resource,
Yes.
and mainly, I think, as Martha said, to bring stuff, I mean, I think that would be valuable to a committee to know that they've got a member that they can go to that'll bring something
That's right.
to this board, and so that's roughly our role, is that correct?
That's correct. And just to go a little bit further, one of the things we're gonna work with town council is to have a workshop in the early fall, and we're thinking maybe offering 2 and making it mandatory for committee people to attend one or the other, just to, and have it be very practical, not have it be didactic with respect to the open meeting law, which is pretty but really just having these kinds of conversations. If the 3 of you are in a room, you just can't deliberate, or just some practical advice as to how to approach committees, and then also doing a chairperson training so that the chairs understand what it means to post an agenda. They're good at that, but then the follow-up with the minutes and when and whom get the minutes
And how you vote minutes.
and how you vote minutes and all that sort of thing.
Some people don't realize it.
So
can
stay
only be done at the
tuned, we're
meeting.
gonna try to make it as palatable of an experience for everybody, and just get everybody feeling comfortable about what they're doing.
Good.
Okay?
And we've had it before with, the town council or somebody from, DO.
Deutsch Williams, but it's very open meeting law, it's.
No,
it'll
but
be
I'm
too much.
talking,
Yeah.
But
Needs
I
to be
think
light.
somebody else, maybe
Somebody came from the
MMA,
Attorney General's office, came down.
or Attorney General,
Yep.
yeah.
So we're gonna
That's
work
it,
on that,
yeah.
to get that
Not town
up and
council.
running.
I knew it was
Well,
somebody else.
both did it, town council's done it too.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't necessarily wanna vote this, if anybody has any feedback on the selectmen liaisons, or I forgot something that I didn't.
Madam Chairman?
Yep, hang on one second, any, that they didn't do, just get back to me and we'll revisit, later, but right now, these are our assignments. Yes, but can you do, I coming up?
Agnes McCann, 104 Don Street. I don't, maybe I missed it, but I didn't hear the list of who the liaisons are. And you said they're the same as they were.
Okay,
Who's liaison to
so
what?
I'll
Would
read
you-
them really quickly. So my committees are Advisory Alternative Energy, Bylaw Committee, Cohasset Cultural Council, Community Preservation Committee, Council on Elder Affairs, Sewer Commission. Steve Garmer, Capital Budget, Design Review Board, OPEB, Sewer Commission, Board of Assessors, Housing Authority. Martha Yestaby, Advisory Committee, Conservation Commission, Historical Commission, Registrar of Voters, Board of Health, Planning Board, and School Committee. Karen Quigley, Alternative Energy, Capital Budget, Cohasset Common Historic District, Harbor Committee, Open Space and Rec, Zoning Board of Appeals, Water Commission, Library Trustees, Housing Authority. Kevin McCarthy, Cable Advisory, Community Television Corp., Council on Elder Affairs, Norfolk County Advisory Board, Water Commission, Planning Board, and Recreation Commission.
Now, I assume something will be going out once we decide on this that says to these boards, here's your
Yes.
liaison, so that they have a connection with us, and maybe
And that again is something I've tried to institute the past couple of years, is
Right.
just having the liaison get a copy of, like, they're on the committee, get a copy of the agenda.
It should
so
be
that
on all
you
their
don't have-
agendas
yeah.
and correspondence, right?
So we'll work on some of those
Generally, I just
communications.
contact the chair of the committee and say, I've been assigned, I'm your liaison, could you put me on the distribution list?
Fine,
And you'll probably need to be proactive as well, but we'll
fine, yep.
do
I
that.
have a quick question,
Yeah.
I don't want an answer right now, but we have, and it has to be, I can't remember, I know the Community Television Corporation is a corporation, it's separate, it has, articles from corporation.
Mhm.
And then we have the Cable Advisory Committee.
Mhm.
And I'm assuming that at the time, and I was on the board, but I can't remember, that there was a reason to have both, but it's the same people.
Yep.
So one is supposed to be, citizen representatives, if we're kind of defeating the purpose
And the terms
there.
are different. I don't know the answer to that, but we'll get it, yes, before we do the appointments. My goal is to have I started a spreadsheet that I'll run through Tracy and Jen once Carol and I have gone through it, because we're trying to check on everybody's ethics exams and all that stuff. So as soon as I have a comprehensive one, I'll pass it through the office and then pass
The
it to the
spreadsheet
board.
that I did out, Diane, which I think I sent to you,
Mhm.
Tracy and Chris, I put down whether it was a selectman, a bylaw, or a mass general law.
Okay.
Some of them are both.
Yep.
So that might be helpful
Okay,
also.
great, I can incorporate it. I had it and I just didn't incorporate
That's
everything.
fine.
So it's still a work in progress. Okay, so I want to move on because we,
May I ask?
Yeah.
If you could leap, because I promised my web czar that I would let him out.
oh
so we could-
gosh, yes.
Can we jump ahead to
Sorry,
that?
Ian.
Yes, and before
Let's do
people
it.
start watching.
So, Ian
So we're
Lister?
moving on to town meeting.
Yes. So we just jump to
Excuse
this
me
one
for
piece, then
second.
we'll revert back. So you want to just set this up first? So let me,
This is very exciting.
yeah, so one of the first things that I realized as we came on was that we had some updating to do. The good news is that a lot of work has been done behind the scenes, and I have to thank Rob Bennell for being ready. So we had a meeting, we said, what can we do, where can we go on this? And okay, here we go. Now, this is, by the way, so here we go. So here is the front page of the website, and let me just, before I let Ian go, so we had Rob, and then so Rob has been the tech guy, and Ian has been the king of content, because without content you don't have any website. So what he's been doing is he's been working with departments and boards and committees and trying to get stuff up to date. The format here is courtesy of Rob through, I think, Ashdown Communications. A number of other communities in the state use this. If you go to different towns, you'll see who they are because they all have very similar features. So let me just turn this over to Ian and let him walk you through where we are.
Yeah, sure. I'll just give everyone a brief overview and the updates that we are seeing in the new website here. So on the front page, first off, a huge thing that is a lot different now is we have this scrolling top bar that, we have full access to boards, committees, departments, forms, documents that'll come up and in various searchable ways, which is huge. And so right on the front page here, we can see a pretty right at you news and announcements, what's going on in town that will constantly be updated. And these are all clickable links that will open up PDFs or bring you to a link, whatever whatever it is. On this right side here, we can see a calendar. Just by first glance, we're able to see a date, what meeting it is, and at what time. If we need more information, we can go and view the calendar, which is also completely redone, which is a huge update from what it currently is. So all the events get put in right here. So for today, for example, we can see that there are or one event that has come up twice. And we can take a look. Apologize for this. And so it will tell you what meeting, what time, where exactly it's taking place. And then we'll be able to see the agendas right here, which will pull up, and the agenda will pop right up. So it's definitely a lot more user-friendly, easy to use. So this calendar, which is a huge update. On the left side, we can see some top links, which are, it's pretty much, you go to this site, what do you need to see exactly? And that's what, our goal here is. So we have bylaws, zoning bylaws, district zoning maps, some GIS pages. Then you can also click on these, which will bring you to Chamber of Commerce, quick links to education, all these drop-down menus, just giving you a lot more options and quick things to go to right away. So aside from the front page, we can show you an example of what a board page will look like. So we'll go to the Selectmen. And as this loads, we will see all the members with their terms, contact information. Just a lot easier to use, a lot more user-friendly, a lot easier on the eye. And also, which is great about this, we're going to be able to see meeting minutes and agendas right here on the side. Again, you click on these, it'll bring you right up on the latest agenda, latest meeting minutes. That'll pop right up. Very easy to get to. Very easy to access, and same with the agenda. You'll be able to pull up, and if you want to go back, it's all archived. Going back to what have you. So it's all there for you, and that will be on every board and committee page. And and you can translate it to any language you would like. And again,
Can you just save it? Could we just save the minutes in Portuguese and make it simpler?
I don't know about that, but it's a lot more informative. All these pages, the goal was to make these very informative pages, very user friendly. Save people a trip from coming to town hall. We want residents to get all the information they possibly need by just going to the website itself. So that's a board page is going to look like that. Departments. A big update as well. This is the assessor's page, for example. Now all the documents are uploaded right into the document library, and the most popular ones will be just downloaded right on the side link. So, the frequently downloaded ones will show up. So hopefully that is what people are clicking on, and it's easy to get to again. If you need to see more documents, there's a full library that you can access with all the documents that you possibly need. If a meeting comes up for, say, the assessors, it will fill right in here on the calendar, so that'll be a very easy and useful thing for the public. Same for the frequently asked questions. Most popular or most frequently downloaded questions will load right onto here. So, and again, view for more questions, you can see the full archived library. And then we can also put on external links, so any links that the assessors wanted, such as a new GIS viewer that we just put up, which is a great tool within itself, property record cards. It's all accessible right here on the sidebar, very easy to use. And then at the bottom there is a functional area, again, that gives you just more information. So for some people who might not know some assessing terms, you'll be able to click on that and you'll have a full glossary of assessing terms. That'll be great for the public. Again, we're trying to make these sites more informational, more user-friendly, very, again, very user-friendly for the public. We want everyone to get all the information they possibly need right on this website. We want to save them a trip here, save them a call. Again, just kind of moving forward with the technological age and really make this a great site that we can all use as a whole community.
Thank you. Great job.
Is this live?
It will be. We want to show it to you before I did it live. One of the things we've been waiting on just a little, I want to make sure we had as good minutes and agendas as possible. And some committees were a little behind in getting things approved, not necessarily keeping records. So Ian has been slogging for the last 10 days in a manic effort to get every minute he could get his hands on. So I think we're in pretty good shape right now, actually.
Yeah, we are just getting, we're actually in really good shape. Very few to wait on, and we should be, pretty
So
good.
I'm hoping to go live quietly before the end of the week. I think that's our goal now.
Yeah,
And then,
definitely.
and again, this is a platform. It's not static. The goal is to continue to grow. We've talked, Diane, about putting photos and having a page of photos. We'd like to do that, and there'll be more information. And again, things can be changed. I mean,
Absolutely.
and updated. And this is not this is not an end. It's a beginning.
So departments that have their own websites now, are they?
You can link to them from
They're
here.
linked from here.
Yes.
So they're not gonna be incorporated
Well,
into this?
it
There's the-
depends. We've been talking about that internally. Some might just roll back into here. For example, Water's talking about just rolling right back into this site. But Rec has a very elaborate, they have
Registration.
registration
Registrations
system.
and everything.
So that may just be better to keep
Yeah.
independent.
And the library has a separate thing.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
right.
Would you
Yes.
put a link in there?
Yeah, the
So
links are
as you
yeah.
can see here, so for example, for the recreation department, we were talking about how their site is, a lot of people use that and they have a lot of forms and everything.
Yeah.
So we do have a link here that will bring you right to their site as it is. So,
Super.
But however, we're looking to keep it uniform and when you go to the page, you want to see the same thing. So we brought over a lot of forms and a lot of links that they do already have on their site to keep it uniform, but there is that link that brings you to that page that people are accustomed to, and they have it, and they do have a lot on that page. So as Chris was saying, we will like to as the water department morph some in, and again, this is a changing thing, something that will continue to make changes and move forward, which would be really good.
It's a great font too. It's very easy to read. And
Good. It's good to hear.
So,
those are the things that make a difference.
So I really, Ian's done a great job, and I want to thank him for all the work he's been doing.
Congratulations. Thank you.
And Rob, I have to give him. This has been hiding there for a long time, right? So it took a lot. It just took we're getting this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, are things gonna be perfect? No, there's gonna be something wrong, right? For example, I have homework to do. I have to update my page. So it's not the end.
Get to it.
Yes. So, but I think it'll just make things a lot more functional. It's cleaner. It looks better. And I'm hoping that we can change the picture up top for the seasons. So we'll see. So it'll look nice. So,
What you see? Do you have the capability to do like a rotating slideshow
For like the
or
top
is that static?
there. There is a possibility to make that a slideshow. I would need to talk to the web developer himself, and but yeah, it's something that we can definitely
Don't go crazy. It was
talk
just the
about.
photos in the
No, it
master.
is a good idea, and Chris has been talking about having a changing picture, even if it's a seasonal thing.
Well, there's so many
or-
beautiful things in Cohasset
yeah,
that we have to show off.
Absolutely, and that's something too that we'll be moving forward and adding as a great picture page or a slideshow or something. But again, this is something that we'll be continuing
just
to
getting
add
greedy.
to. Yeah, no, we want to make this the best site that it can be. So we are definitely looking to continue to make these changes.
Now, one of the things that my prior town did, we had some video links right on the top too. So there were greetings of various people, and I've already talked about some departments. We have the capability of filming things, so we can, here's the assessor's office. Here's what you do in the assessor's office, or here's the billing department. Here's how you file a billing permit. These aren't things for today, but things we can do because people live that way.
Right.
Now, the other piece to this, I want to talk about all the good and wonderful things, but a mobile site is still down the road. So this will look great on home computers, but you're gonna have to be able to blow it up on your tablet. Your tablet will look great on, but on a mobile phone, it's still this. So I'm working on that. I know.
Is it a proprietary?
No. I just have to. I'm meeting with Rob this week to ask him about that. So this was. I don't want to delay this for that. Yeah, but a lot of towns don't have mobile sites right now. Some do, but it's most certainly on the list. But this works. It's clean. It's good. And again, I think
It's
people
a
have been
gazillion times better.
It's a gazillion times better.
Peter, do you have a question? You want to come up? Do you mind?
How
I'm sorry.
will the committee sites get updated? Will the committees do it? Or
Well,
will it be
here's what we're
separate
looking to do.
content?
And Carol knows this. I'm not took out of school. So agendas, the calendar and minutes, we're gonna run through the clerk. So the goal will be that every committee is gonna know that they need to send their minutes on a regular basis.
Advisory sends it to them.
Exactly, so that way the clerk will be the master keeper, and her office, which has been doing the agendas already, are gonna keep doing the agendas, so she might as well keep doing the minutes, that way it's something that way we'll know that they're in the right place, and they get updated, and then most of the calendar is meetings anyway. Now, so it's not minutes, meetings we can put on the calendar separately. Obviously, events, festivals, those are all up there too, and we'll make sure those go up, so.
Terrific.
And again, we're talking about how to manage this. Probably want to bring multiple staff people into the mix so that, I don't know if every single staff member, every department will be able to do this on their own. I'm not quite so sure I'm comfortable with that, but we want to broaden it out so people can, update various key pieces. And I don't want this, it's all Ian will be doing, will be posting stuff, and I really look at the children more than that. But, so we're working on that. So again, it's a work in progress, but at least it's a work, and it'll be live soon, and here we go. So, and now that it's up here, it has to be live.
Yeah, really, they're gonna be looking
So,
forward to it.
anything
Thank
else?
you. No,
Okay.
if it's okay,
Thank you
I'd
very
like
much.
to keep moving.
All right, let's go. Thank you, Ian. I
Thank you,
appreciate
Ian,
it.
that was
Thank you.
terrific.
And
Thank you guys.
You're starting to sound like Eric and Andrew.
I just want to, who, me?
Yeah. 9 o'clock, we have to go, whether we've done this.
Well, one of our
I just
members,
teased him.
no, but one of our members does need to leave, so I want to try to move it along. So the town manager review, everybody has gotten a copy of the most up-to-date draft for the town manager performance evaluation. Karen and I worked with Lisa Uglialoro on this. She's been fabulous. We each made changes, ran them through each other, sent them to her, she cleaned it up. And we have a document that I don't want to spend too much time on unless you found things that we need to address. The plan right now is, assuming this document or this document with some changes is approved by the board, we will get a copy out to each member to fill it out on his or her own. You can do it on your own, you can do it in conjunction with Chris. And then Lisa is gonna recommend a way to get those back to one depository, whether it's a secret box or something. And then Karen and I will probably the first week of July, I'd like to get this done, have each selectman do their work before the end of June, if possible, give or take. Then we will compile the results. Those individual performance evaluations, I think I mentioned this last time, will become part of Chris's personnel file and are not public information. The compilation that we'll work on with the HR consultant will become a public document that we'll present on June, whatever it is, 15th. July 15th, thank you. There's one piece in here, I think it's section 5, that we will fill out collectively with Chris during the evaluation process. It's really just his goals, which will be based on our goals, which we will have begun to form when we meet next Thursday. So, anybody have any comments, suggestions?
I think this would be fine for the, the 6-month thing. I did think and we don't need to go into this tonight, but some of these things seem to, I'd rather focus more with Chris on what his goals, objectives are, and did he get them done or not. Some of these things, it's almost like we were working with him every day, how do you communicate and so on and so on.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard, I think. So I think when we do his 12-month, we ought to look at that and maybe pull away a little bit from some of the little detail as though we were here with him every day type thing and focus more on the overarching goals.
There are many days I think I am with you every day.
Yeah, well,
Not all
you
the time.
do, I do see,
Yeah. And one of the things that Chris has mentioned and is really kind of the way a lot of this HR is done now is these 360-degree reviews. So we will be spending a lot of time, once we get through this, because we have to, designing that process, which is then going to become how Chris evaluates the employees of the town, how we all work, you know, so we will give some shape to that as well. The other thing is, and just because I remember when my kids were in elementary school, and they would get like secure, you know, approaching secure, and my husband would be like, well, is secure an A, and, you know, approaching secure is a B, and I'm like, no. So a lot of these things are gonna be, you know, what was the word, there was one phrase, and I think I don't have the word, it's, you know, working, or, they haven't accomplished it. There's a lot of
Work in process.
work in process, I'm missing that one page, but it's not all gonna be accomplished, that wasn't designed to have been accomplished. These are all fluid goals, and larger objectives, so.
Colors near the lines.
So color, right, stays in the lines. So, anyway,
Who's sending this out?
so I will, assuming this is, approved tonight as a document, we will send out a formal one to each member of the board.
Okay, can I just get it on the native format so I can make my comments right on it when you send it out?
I think
Well,
one of the
Diane's
things
gonna send that out.
we're going to talk with Lisa about is if it can be, I think if we make it
I mean, a fillable form kind of a thing.
a PDF where you can actually just
Right.
complete
Okay,
it.
that didn't my thought.
Yeah.
Also, to my own comments, I've only
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
around for a month or so, so some of these things I'm just not gonna address, because this isn't fair for
And that's
Chris, for me
fine.
to be addressing
Yep.
like you.
Yep.
Because I haven't worked with him as long, so some of these I may leave blank just because
That's
of
fine,
that. though.
right, because
I'll
ultimately
make a note.
it's the compiled version that
Right.
I think
And I
between the
shouldn't
two
have
of
an
us, we
undue
can-
weight on it, because I
Yeah.
have not been around as long.
Any other comments? All right.
Fine.
Does anybody want to move the approval of this
I
performance
think we have an
evaluation?
audience, a question
from
Okay, Peter?
Can you approach the bit? Can you
Yep.
approach the-
Possible to
Please
get a
approach the
copy?
bench.
Could you
Blank
come up
copy
here
of
with
this?
that?
Yep, I'll give it to you on the way out. Although I think I'm missing one page, but, yeah, I am missing some pages, but I think it's just my I'll get you one, Peter. Okay, so is there a motion to approve this
So moved.
document?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Unanimous. Okay, I want to move on to the proclamations if I can, so we can get them. So this is under correspondence, proclamation. So much for my efficient meeting, huh?
It's a work in progress.
It's a work in progress, everything is.
Colors near the lines.
Yes, okay. So I just want to give a little bit of context to these two proclamations that I'm going to ask the board to approve and sign today. The Cohasset Working Dog Foundation, which is a Cohasset-based, Cohasset Working foundation that has supported a lot of the costs for Eric the canine dog, and then did a massive fundraiser a year and a half ago and accepted grant applications to fund a service dog for a little girl in town. That service dog is about 14 months old and arrived in Cohasset after about 12 months of very intensive training so that this dog, Parker, can service the needs of a girl with some challenges. They had a meet Parker, but you can't touch Parker.
That's right.
And we were told all about it. We met the trainer, who's a man named James Quarterman from Tennessee. And we met the 16-year-old boy who founded a foundation called One Boy for Change. He needed a service dog for seizure purposes and has since his foundation has since trained or sent dogs off to train, I think over 20 to 30 times, mostly for returning military service members that need assistance. So it's just an amazing story. And both the boy, Christopher Carswell, who founded One Boy for Change, and James Quarterman are in town this week acclimating Parker to Parker's new family. So the two proclamations read as follows. Whereas James Quarterman, proprietor of Island Grove Kennels of Limestone, Tennessee, has selflessly donated hundreds of hours of his time to the care and high-level training of service dogs, And whereas James Quarterman has helped to train and graduate 19 service dog teams for One Boy for Change, a nonprofit organization which provides trained service dogs to children and veterans nationwide. And whereas James Quarterman has prepared Service Dog Parker for his partnership with the young Cohasset resident, now therefore be it resolved that the citizens of the town of Cohasset recognize James Quarterman for his exceptional talent and tremendous generosity in preparing Service Dog Parker for his important work and service to a Cohasset family. Given under our hands in the seal of the town of Cohasset on the 17th day of June in the year 2014. If somebody would move the approval of that?
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The second one, whereas Christopher Carswell is the founder of One Boy for Change, a nonprofit organization which he began at the age of 13, and whereas since 2011, One Boy for Change has placed 46 trained service dogs with children and 14 service dogs with veterans in the United States and Canada. And whereas One Boy for Change has donated more than 36 heat alarms to police canine units across the United States and hundreds of cups of coffee to servicemen and women serving overseas. And whereas Christopher Carswell and One Boy for Change have selected, trained, and placed Service Dog Parker with the young Cohasset resident. Now therefore be it resolved that the citizens of the town of Cohasset recognize Christopher Carswell for his exceptionally generous spirit, his unique understanding of the importance of service, and his commitment to making the world a better place. Given under our hands and the seal of the town of Cohasset. Take a motion?
I move.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. And they'll be presented with those on Friday.
While you're, are you ready for me? Okay.
Go right ahead.
So, while you're, you got the first part of my report. The second part, and I apologize for not having sent these out earlier. I'll take one and pass them along. You got these electronically.
Okay, there's no trees involved?
There are trees here.
Oh, yeah.
These are recycled trees. This all sent out electronically, but here's a hard copy. I wanted to send these out last week, and between the Arts Festival and the rain and the fact I was juggling, I didn't. So, but I will get these to you more. Mary got them to me at a timely manner, so it's my fault I didn't get them to you at a timely manner. So I'm happy to answer. You might want to just take a look at these so we can pick up the conversation at a future date. I think the upshot is that we're closing out things okay. Things are looking okay. We will know better in 2 weeks as we wrap up the year, a little bit more tightly, and then by the 15th we'll know even more tightly. So far things are looking good to close out. That's the very quick update. The visual budget. I know I talked to some of you briefly, and I did mention this to the advisory committee the other night. Mary, Paula, and I had a presentation from the visual budget folks from Arlington. What happened is that in Arlington, a group of their town residents, some of them were members of their finance committee and the Selectmen, wanted to make the budget more accessible to residents and to themselves and to the committees. So they were able to, they were able to create this program that made the budget very easy to look at and to manipulate. And for example, you could plug in how much in tax you pay, and it'll show you what that means, how much you pay to police and trees and whatever. So a very interesting tool.
Yeah. Is around.
When I spoke with the folks in Arlington earlier this year, because I was trying to get some information on some of the other things they do, I complimented their town manager on it, and he said, well, we have some people working on it, and I said, well, if anything ever happens, let me know. Well, about a month ago, they got a call, and they have a group that's pushing this out, and they're looking for some pioneer communities to join with them to develop this, and then to seek a state grant collaboratively to roll it out even further. So I'm eager to join in, but so on the first, I'm going to have a representative come in and it won't be a long presentation, but they'll show you what it looks like, how it works here at the joint meeting. And we can talk a little bit more about the details at that point. But it's a couple of thousands. I think it's $3,000 they were looking for a buy-in. They would help us set it up, support it initially, and then they would work to update the next phase, which would allow more functionality. But, you know, so we'll see it in 2 weeks. So I just want to let you know that. I think it'll be another way of being more transparent and more accessible. I just want to say very quickly about the Arts Festival. I'm sure you'll all comment on it too. It was the first one I attended. I spent a lot of time here on Friday going out and thanking everyone for coming in the rain. It did rain a lot. I kept looking at the radar hoping it was going to go away, and it didn't. So I got a little wet, but I did, I partook in the local treats. I had strawberry shortcakes for the staff and myself, and I got to eat a lobster roll, and I did walk around a lot more, so I did burn up the calories. And I did, I interact with a number of the vendors, and the number have come back year in and year out. It was great, and I did come back a little bit on Saturday, so I saw that the weather had broken and things were better. So got another one of these wonderful community opportunities, and I did manage to, I brought a strawberry shortcake kit home to New York for Father's Day, so everyone got to enjoy them when I brought them back. So I just wanted to just mention that. Oh, and I was also, Carol will be upset if I don't read this. All facility stickers are now on sale at Town Hall during regular business hours. Residents are encouraged to order their stickers online and pay for them electronically at www.townofcohasset.org. You may also, actually, I don't know if that's actually our website.
I was just going to say.
It's actually cohasset.ma.org, so ignore
Yeah.
that. I don't know what she did there.
I think it links though.
It may link, I think, but we use the Cohasset.ma.org primarily. You may also order by mail, and the applications are available on the TED's website. Stickers will not be sold on the weekend, so please get your stickers. You can order them online and pay for them online, and get them while they're hot. So.
I just want to jump on the budget just a little bit, because
Sure.
we're going to have a joint meeting with advisory on July 1st, and go through any end of year, and we may need to do it again July 15th, 2 weeks later. But the goal going forward is the second meeting of the month to take just 15 minutes of each meeting and review, have a kind of a budget update, so that we make sure we've trended properly the month prior, that any flags go up, and we'll make a commitment, and that'll just be built into the second agenda of each month.
So we'll get these reports in preparation for that meeting.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah, and
It's very useful, and that's done every month. That's
Yeah,
beautiful.
and just
Right.
because we had a really full agenda, I
Yeah.
asked Chris just to make sure we're okay, and we're gonna be doing some cleanup work in a
Good.
couple weeks.
Is the advisory committee also do this kind of review? I was at one of their meetings the other night, and we did review this. Is that done
Yes.
monthly by the advisory committee? So they're watching it monthly, and we'll be watching it monthly.
We don't watch it monthly. The budget is sufficiently static that change only happens over time. I would recommend quarterly serious reviews and just a brush by on a monthly basis.
That's the intent, yeah.
Because most of it's salary, 75% of the budget is salary, that's fixed. Most of the other spending is relatively fixed, there's only a few places that can get out of hand.
Right.
So, I wouldn't recommend any, I think your time could be better spent, a really rigorous quarterly review and just a quick review on a month basis, I think
Okay.
that's the way we handle it.
Make it 10 minutes, and then I would like to do a much more thorough one, sort of.
Well,
And we
once
can
it-
talk
once it-
about what the
Just
right
let us
quarters
know.
are
We'll get the
after
budget.
hurricane season.
Right.
Yeah, I
after
mean, for
storm
instance, the
season.
fiscal year starts in July, and, I mean,
That'll almost be
it's
our-
the summer, and,
Yep,
Chris?
1 month in a row doesn't tell you anything.
sure.
What you've just handed us, in the budget summary, does this reflect actual receipts
Yes.
or simply booked revenues?
This reflects receipts, but again, it's the, and this was done through this was as of June 11th, May 30th first through June 11th. Because
So the reason I'm asking is, again, looking at water enterprise, revenues are down $298,000. So my question is, this is the budget for charges is $3.7 million. Year-to-date receipts is $3.4 million. So how much of the $298,000 are receivables?
Their bills were due June 2nd, so
Well, that's the question.
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
there's all their most recent set of bills, so there's a little bit of a lag and stuff like that.
No, I understand, but the question, and it doesn't, I
Yeah.
recognize you can't answer it at the moment.
Yeah, how much is, uncollected and yeah.
A receivable, I'm less concerned about. I am much more concerned about a deficit.
Yeah, I have to have Mary give me an update on it.
That's-
Yes, that's an excellent question.
I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, and we are watching this, and I know that Water's been watching this very closely, so.
Well, but the question, I guess the question is, how much is billed
Yes.
versus the
Correct,
budget?
Right, correct.
Okay?
They're meeting tomorrow.
From 2 to 5.
I'll be in New York tomorrow, so I can't make that meeting.
You're a liaison.
I am, but I can't make 2 to 5 in the afternoon.
So,
We'll pick that conversation.
Chris is going, right?
okay, I
Yes,
appreciate
I'm going
it.
tomorrow.
Thanks, Chris.
Again, I hope these are useful too. I think this is,
Yeah.
there's
I
any.
particularly like those. Great, thank you. That bottom number on water, but that doesn't reflect some of the receivables?
Yeah, I think there's still like outstanding receivables, so. Yeah, but they are running a little.
Well, then none of the receivables that came in.
But they don't have, didn't they vote all their retained earnings into reserve?
Yeah.
So the town would have to balance it?
No, I mean, they have reserve funds, I mean, they have to be released, so.
But that can't be released until a town meeting, right?
Correct.
Special town meeting can
Right.
take care of it.
Correct, yeah.
So just selectmen updates. Kevin, do you have anything?
June 5th, I attended the Department of Revenue really put on a great program. I'll just go for new selectmen, new officials to go over financial aspects of their roles. And there did a lot of stuff in the budget process on Proposition 2.5, tax rates, how to set them and so forth. It was a really useful day. I want to thank my colleague Martha Jestevig and Chris Senior, both who attended. Was this new information for them, but they did so to help me through the learning process, and I did get a lot of benefit from their attendance, and I want to thank them for doing that. And the day went very well. And I'll let Martha fill in anything else she may want regarding that day. To make it quickly, there was another excellent training session that the Mass Municipal Association put on for new selectmen. And just so people know about it, it's a new selectmen, they spend a whole full day and they go over conflict of interest, open meeting laws, budgeting basics, whole procedures as to what your new role would be for a selectman. So the Mass Municipal Association puts that on. It was a great day. They gave out something which they usually sell, but they overproduced them, which is a Finance Committee handbook, and it's just soup to nuts of everything that you would want to know to become part of a Finance Committee. All the glossary terms of items.
He wrote the book.
All of the how to read cherry sheets. It's very, very elaborate thing. I did get, and I got an extra disc, so I can give that to you, Chris, if you want, for distribution.
Can it be in the lending library?
Put it in the
I'd
lending
love to look at it, yeah.
Yeah, they usually sell it, but they overproduce, so they gave it to us new folks. So, and I got an extra one, and we can share that way. So that concludes my
Very nice.
remarks, and I thank you.
Mr. Ballmer?
Congratulations to the senior class of Cohasset High School on another graduation. It's apparently went off without a hitch, which is it's always a plus. Congratulations also to the boys lacrosse team, state champions.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, they won in a nail biter. Apparently, I did not attend the game, but apparently
10-9.
10-9, and it came down. It came down to the wire, as you can guess by the score. As well,
Champs.
state champions. Look, that's all that matters. At the end of the day, that's what matters. And I also wanted to point out to the board that the OPEB committee will be making a presentation to the school committee upon their, based on the findings they have and some basic recommendations that the committee is going to bring forward both to the school committee and to the town manager, and likewise will make a presentation to us at a later date.
23rd.
Is it the 20th? It's already scheduled, so we've got it.
Yours.
Hmm?
Yours is scheduled.
No,
The school.
the school.
The school's the
23rd.
23rd. No, I'm talking about the presentation that they'll bring back to the Board of
Oh,
Selectmen as well. But the results of this are come on the heels of more than a year's worth of hard work on their part. And I think that they've looked at, as I understand the outcomes, they've looked at the alternatives very thoroughly. They've also looked at different methods which are that our neighboring towns have used to address the same issue, and believe that, based upon what I've heard so far, is that their recommendations have been proven to be successful over time in integrating both the benefits that have been negotiated for employees and retirees, as well as delivering those benefits within the realm of the town's capability to do so. So I know that it's, as a subject matter, it's not nearly so exciting as the town website, but it's critically important. So as it arrives on the agenda, I encourage you to come armed with questions.
Karen?
I'm all set.
Martha?
Well, I wanted to say that I went to the nursery school that moved from the town common to behind the library.
To take a teacup ride?
No, I didn't. No, but they all said, the director and everybody, that they liked it better because of the fence around there. They said, and actually, it looked very well. Everybody seemed to be enjoying it. And that's a win-win situation.
Absolutely.
And I also met the new dog, Parker dog.
Parker, yeah.
Yeah, I missed part of the demonstration, and then and also a little dog that's used to comfort people. And it's wonderful, all these different dogs.
The Working Dog Foundation also has 2 dogs that go into the library on a regular basis, and kids read to the dogs,
Yes,
and
yeah.
they're therapy dogs. They're
Yeah.
just great. They did a presentation at the schools the other day.
Yeah,
Nice
dogs
stuff.
are very good, and we had a John Smith meeting yesterday, and it's coming along. We have the education part of it being worked on by the schools. We have boats. The Coast Guard is going to have some kind of boat there, and we have speakers coming down. We may have a dinner fundraiser or something the night before, and we're going to have to contact the police and maybe block off part of the road like they do at Memorial Day, that kind of thing. And we've got great progress in the next, so that's something else, and the senator and the rep are going to be involved too. And as I say, Chris is going to be master of ceremonies. He is not, and no one's asked him, but they voted.
He is the jack of all trades.
But I wanted to inform you that was the vote from the meeting.
Surprise.
So-
That's what happens when you don't go to meetings.
You
Yes.
don't go to meetings and so forth. But there's one other thing, a sheet that we have here on field collection charge. I don't know what this is.
I think it was just Xfinity was
Yeah,
raising
we
one of
just-
our
yeah.
fees from $20 to $25.
Yeah, if we pay late or something,
We can't debate it.
Well, I don't think we ever pay it anyway, so.
Okay, that's all.
You're not gonna talk about our excellent venture out to Worcester and back?
Oh, you mean that we
That's all
must
right.
have seen 1,000 cars, and we went through 12 different cities.
At least.
Because the blockage with the traffic, we had to circumvent all kinds of places.
It was
And then we
raining,
ended up
too,
at
right?
Wegmans.
I know, we ended up in
Having pizza.
Cambridge. I
Yeah,
thought,
no,
hey,
we had
Brookline.
We ended up eating
Brooklyn.
pizza at Wegmans.
At Wegmans, which Kevin bought
Yeah, it
us,
was.
treated us, and it was very nice.
Like a field
It really
day.
was.
Yeah, we spent the whole day.
And Martha let us through the backwoods of Boston, which I'd never seen before.
Yeah, she knows them without a GPS.
It was amazing.
Yeah,
No,
the
I
various
know,
side
that's-
roads.
She knew, I
Did
did.
you go up through Brookline?
Yeah.
Yeah, she knows all the
Then-
back
then we-
roads.
Then we went through like West Roxbury and
West
Hyde Park.
Roxbury, the
Yeah.
Turtle Pound Parkway.
Yeah.
Take them down the Arbor Way?
No, we didn't have that.
That would have been the quicker way.
Well,
It was
no,
much-
we
it was
went-
much
no,
more
we-
scenic this way.
No, we went home via that way, and then we went through, the,
Blue
down
Hills.
through Blue
Yeah.
Hills. and we
Yeah.
went that way.
Went through the nature trip down there.
Yes, exactly.
Boy.
It was a good
Got a lot of
time.
traffic on 128.
It was.
It was very interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, it
One-
was, we
Some
saw,
side.
sports, all the sports games, decided how the people were gonna win and whatever.
Were you betting? Just one of the other pieces of material in our packet was, which is probably worth reading, the Norfolk County Registry of Deeds Community Outreach Program. As part of that, the Registrar of Deeds, William O'Donnell, will be holding office hours at Cohasset Town Hall on Thursday, June 26th, from 10 a.m. to noon. So anybody that has any questions or needs any information from the Registrar of Deeds should stop by next Thursday. Just a couple quick things. Just on top of the boys lacrosse state championship, I wanted to also mention Emma Davis, who won, she's a junior, who won her third straight state title in girls tennis.
Wow.
I mean, she's amazing. Third straight title in the
Amazing.
and she is not yet a senior, so look for her on the national scene. I'm just gonna hand this out, which is a draft agenda for next Thursday's Goals and Objectives workshop. Chris and I kind of worked on this a little bit today. If anybody has any
I'll take this one.
I didn't know where that came from. If anybody has any comments, just send it to either Chris or myself. Wait. This is why we really need to go digital. This is basically just, we're gonna spend most of next week kind of reviewing where we're at, doing a little visioning segment where we talk about, what are we really trying to get to here in the town of Cohasset, and then start building our goals and objectives for FY15, and you can be sure that budget development will be part of that discussion, I'm sure. And then on a much more somber note, I just wanted to ask everyone to have a moment of silence for Allison Callahan, who passed away and was a wonderful friend to many people in the community, and her loss is very, very big for many of us. Thank you very much.
And also, reminds me, last Saturday, the service for Marjorie Steele, and that was, I went to the service and it was very uplifting. St. Anthony was practically filled. She also was a very fine person.
Wonderful people.
Yeah, all these women that died.
Great stuff. Thank you. Okay, so we have minutes to approve, and I think we're gonna be done. Let me just have it. And maybe Kevin has it right. I did have some slight changes to the minutes. Does anybody have any changes to the June 3rd minutes?
No,
I didn't. I didn't know if it might be appropriate to put in something in the first line. Presented the board with a check. We didn't really get a check for the money.
Right.
If we could put in symbolic check or
Symbolic.
something.
Yes.
yeah, that's.
Put the word dummy, because I went on thesaurus.com, I'm like, what's the word I'm looking for?
Under the Carriage House Nursery, this is really a nitpicking thing, but in line 2, it says they are requesting. Everything else is in the past tense. All the other consistency thing.
They requested.
They requested.
They requested.
And I had a capital M and capital C on Music Circus.
Oh, good. Under Gateway Media Letter, in the 4th line towards the middle, there's an extra T.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay.
It's supposed to be at.
That's okay. You should see what I typed someday.
I think it's supposed to be at.
Yep, yep. Okay.
Right. Under Town Manager Update, line 5, advise the board that he,
Yes, that.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5th line down under town manager, okay.
Oh, okay.
And then in the second to the last line, by DUI. That's spell check.
Sorry.
That's all right, thank you.
And just one clarification, I don't think we need to change the minutes, but I did say, I think I incorrectly said I'd like to invite the American Defamation League, which is, well, it's the Anti-Defamation League, which should be corrected in the minutes, under a Gatehouse Media letter. The anti-defamation. And then the only other issue on that is, what I intended to say was to invite some of the community members that participated in the No Place for Hate. So, but I'll go forward and we'll do that sometime this summer. Okay. Anybody want to make a motion to approve the minutes of 6/3 as amended?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. I have no topics not reasonably anticipated by the chairman, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned.